I promise briefly we'll have a closed session, and I need a motion to go into closed session for the discussion of acquisition, disposition of real property, more specifically tourism space needs pursuant to 2.2-3711 A3 and A29 of the Code of Virginia. Need a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we go into, the town council go into closed session for discussion of acquisition and disposition of real property, more specifically tourism space needs pursuant to section 2.2-3711 A3 and A29 of the Code of Virginia.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a second.
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I just want to let everyone know, due to the most recent vote to not take minutes, I'll be making a recording for my own notes of the meeting as on my iPad as discussed by the attorney. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion. We have a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Beepermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
No.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye. Motion passes. This time, I need a motion to come out of a closed session and back into open session. And the only thing discussed was the acquisition and disposition of real property, more specifically, tourism space needs pursuant to 2.2-3711, A3 and A29 of the Code of Virginia. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion that we resume, town council resume in open session. And furthermore, the only items that were discussed in closed session were discussion of acquisition, disposition of real property, more specifically tourism space needs pursuant to section 2.2-3711, A3 and A29 of the Code of Virginia.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, call for the question.
Councilwoman Butler?
Yes.
Councilwoman Biedermeyer?
Yes.
Councilman Brooks?
Yes.
Councilman Cutler?
Yes.
Councilman Bowman?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Harris?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Aye. At this time, we have public comments. Has anyone signed up?
We have one, but she's under finance.
Okay, all right. Hearing none, I want to remind everybody to speak into the microphone. We've had some problems with some recordings and hard to hear, so anyone that comes forward, please speak into the microphone clearly so we can hear.
Mr.
Since we-
Mayor, can I ask a question before we move on? Did we not have council comments in this intentionally, or was it skipped?
No,
or-
we typically don't have them in committee meetings, just in council meetings. At this time, Public Safety Committee, Mr. Bowman?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Public Safety Committee comprised of myself, Vice Mayor Harris, and Councilwoman Mary Ellen Biedermeyer. The first item on there is item 3A, operational update from Smithfield Police Department. Alonzo Howell, Chief of Police. Chief Howell, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Mayor, members of council. In the form of operational updates, you all have been advised of some recent activity that received that made national news. Just want you all to be aware that Smithfield Police Department only assisted in those endeavors. You all have our report as far as our monthly report, and as far as the operational updates, that is primarily the only thing that is noteworthy. But I'd be more than happy to answer any questions members of council may have.
Mr. Bowman, I have a
Yeah,
comment and a couple questions.
Councilman Cutler, please.
Chief, thank you for your humble comments in your report. I just want to say, we've seen just this continuous series of success by the Smithfield PD and the Isle of Wight County Sheriff's Office, as well as your adjacent partners, and I just want to thank you for that. I mean, it's really been incredible as of late, particularly, and that partnerships, I'm sure, is a big part of what makes it work.
Yes,
Whether you say you assist, I mean, you assist because you're partners, and that goes a long ways. Similarly, just in this moment, I'd like to thank you and your officers for and ask you to step up, observation and this time of war that we're in. We have a large terrorist risk in this nation, and as we saw, the event that happened at ODU, had tentacles that extended to Smithfield, and those types of things can continue. So we know our police force, strong, professional, excellent force, but increasing our vigilance as our police and our citizens, all our staff as well. And if you see something, say something. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank
And
you, Councilman Cutler.
just to respond in reference to that, we have, as it relates to recent events, we have spoken with the men and women of the agency and made them more aware of the potential, so to be more vigilant in their patrol and in the things in which they observe. So we are addressing those concerns.
Thank you. And Mr. Bowman,
Yes, sir.
I had a
Follow
question
up.
as well.
Yes, sir.
Chief, do all of our police officers wear body cams? Is that 100% consistent across the board?
All the officers that are on patrol, yes, sir, they wear a body cam. Investigative officers, if they're doing some type of special event, they also wear a body cam. So, yes, sir.
And that is the rule, not an exception?
No exception to the rule.
Can the officer turn off the body cam if he chooses to?
If the officer turns the body cam off, that comes under question and investigation will be conducted.
Why is that?
Because if you're having a citizen contact, the question is, why are you turning the body cam off? Are you trying to avoid some type of behavior or something that's going on? So, yes, sir, it does cause.
So what is the, and not to put you on the spot, I apologize, but is there a purpose to the policy that all of our patrol officers wear a body cam? Is there a, I'm sure there's an instruction, does it say the purpose of this is, or maybe you could paraphrase?
The purpose of the officers wearing body cams is to validate what it is that the officers are doing. It's not the, excuse me, it is not the body cam speaks first, it's that the officer, it validates what the officers are testifying to, because the body cam does not capture what the human eye captures, but it does capture a portion.
In my limited research and some listening I happened to be doing while I was traveling, it seemed like it had helped officers very much to have a body cam.
Yes, sir.
And stop he said, she said moments and things such as that. So I just wanted to get some more details on that. Thank you very much.
Case in point, sir, just speaking historically, we had a complaint on the officer, made a traffic stop. Young lady's father came in, and when he observed the body cam, he apologized not only to me but to the officer as well, because found out that his daughter had been untruthful in the comments as to how she was treated during the traffic stop. So yes, sir, the body cams, they're worth it.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That has happened numerous times over the course of our careers.
Yes, sir.
Councilman Bowman, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am, please.
Chief Howell, I noticed that there are 4 activities that you have with Westside Elementary. Is that a special program that we have engaged in with the school system called the High Five Wednesdays?
That is something just to, it's community policing, is interacting with children when they are young, so they don't always see us in an enforcement role. They see us in more of a human role, in a more friendly role, and it pays dividends.
What happens on these days? Is
Oh,
this
oh.
where you're greeting kids
When
as
it-
they come to school?
When the kids get off the
Okay.
school bus, the officers of the Smithfield Police Department are there just to greet them, welcome them to the school, and give them a high five.
Oh,
A lot,
okay.
you should see some of the smiles on the children's faces when they get to interact with the
I
police
didn't know we
officers.
were doing that. I
Yes.
think it's a great opportunity for the kids. Thank you.
Yes.
Any further questions for Chief Howell by members of Town Council? Chief, thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Next, we have operational update from Smithfield Volunteer Fire Department. Jeff Smith, Assistant Chief of Operations. Chief, good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon. I'm Jeff Smith, Assistant Chief of Smithfield Volunteer Fire Department. It's been a while since we've been here. We had a few issues going on. But our January update, we had 93 calls. In February, we had 81. We had a successful truck class y'all seen. We're in the process of moving it out to our training facility. Other than that, nothing major going on except for a lot of calls.
I had an opportunity to go to the truck class and observe, and we had units from as far away as western part of the state or in out of state in North
Yeah.
Carolina.
A lot of your career departments sends their lieutenants over and to get better training for the truck side.
A lot of movement going on. Look very, very professional. Any questions for Chief Smith? Thank you, Chief. Much appreciated. Thanks for all you do for us.
All right.
Next is Brian Carroll. He's chief at the Station 60 Isle of Wight Volunteer Rescue Squad. And just as a way of introduction, we were going to have some issues that deal with funding requests. While Chief Carroll is up here, if it please council, I've asked him to go ahead and provide that to us while he's here so he can get back out to the station. Chief?
Thank you all for the time. First and foremost, I think probably an update on the new Riverside Hospital and some interesting facts and figures, and that is, I just can't emphasize enough the benefit to the community and to the organizations for that facility. The first month's data, and this is just January 6th to January 31, this is countywide data, not just Isle of Wight Rescue, but we went to Riverside Smithfield 177 times in that 25-day period. 60 trips to overseas, 8 trips to regional. 11 to Southampton Memorial. Carswell goes to Southampton Memorial, 3 to KD, and 2 to Norfolk General. So the vast majority of our patients are going to Riverside Smithfield. The acuity that most any patient they will take at that facility, with the exception of an active STEMI and some trauma incidents and dialysis patients.
So basically, that hospital saved us 177 trips across the James River Bridge.
Correct, absolutely. I don't think in that period, with the exception of just those outlying criteria crawls, we went to oversee it all with a North End medic. I'm not sure we've been there more than a half dozen times since the facility opened. And the surprising thing, and I'm proud to say for our citizens, is we haven't had any pushback either. Everybody's realized that they call 911, they go to the closest facility. We thought we'd see some pushback from citizens that have traditionally gone to a Centera, an outside facility, because we've done patient choice for so many years, but we have not seen that, and I applaud them for recognizing that when they're in that ambulance, they go to the closest appropriate facility. The other couple interesting facts, prior to the hospital opening, our call times, turn times were about 81 minutes. They're down to 46 minutes, so nearly half the time in the medic. Transport times are down about 17 minutes a call, so you're 17 minutes closer to the hospital. And those are just remarkable life-saving numbers. I can't emphasize the importance of that facility and the relationship that we've continued to build with the Riverside Health System Network. So, other than that, we just completed the EMT class. Those students are starting to test for teaching EVOC, and we've partnered with Kelton Fire to teach the next EMT program in the county, so that'll start in the next couple months, and those programs are usually full. We used to try to teach that on the college semester. We kind of moved off of that because the program has gotten so long now. It's a little over 200 hours, and you just can't jam that in 3 months anymore. So it's pretty intense. So that's pretty much all I have for operational
Will the
updates.
class be held at Station 60
It
or
will,
will it stay
yes,
at
sir.
Carrollton?
We're just combining, no, it'll be held at Station 60
Okay.
at All White. We're just combining instructors. So, any questions on operational updates?
Okay.
Okay. We do have a funding request from the town, and I'll be the first to tell you that back in 2011, we implemented 12-lead EKG transmission and LifePack 15 technology in the county with a partnership with the local hospital. And on December the 14th, I was the benefactor of that technology. I had a massive heart attack at home, way out of town. I was fortunate enough as chief to have my equipment with me in my car. My wife put me on the monitor. We saw what was happening, transmitted that technology to the hospital, and I was in the cath lab in 32 minutes from door to cath and reperfused in 32 minutes. So I'm humble for that technology. I say that to say that our next big technology thing, and we've done a lot of things since we did that. We've added Lucas as an automatic CPR devices and other things. But the next big step that we're going to make in the county is the implementation of auto vents and IV pumps. So we're requesting partial funding from the town to implement IV pumps and respirator vents on the medics, and the amount of the total amount for both projects is going to be $15,889 for the IV pumps and $43,404 for the vents for All White Rescue. Now, we're not asking for complete funding. We're asking for any input that the town's willing to get. We've submitted state grants and grant funding and under other funding sources, but I can't emphasize, and I have a presentation, I'll leave that for your record, Michael, but the importance of adding vent and IV drip technology, I think, is the next big push in the region for emergency medicine.
Can you briefly explain what the vent does? I think we know what the IV pump does, but you don't have to guess the drip number. or anything
Correct.
like
You don't
that.
have to do math in the medic
doesn't.
anymore.
Right.
That's what the IV pump does. But the vent is just, it's a respirator device that's used on all difficulty breathing patients. Well, not all of them, but any patient that would be on CPAP or BiPAP or any cardiac arrest. I mean, it's taken that manual ventilation and putting it on a machine and just doing it so much more accurately than you can possibly do it by hand. It's the same as the automatic CPR device or the technology to call that STEMI in the field. It's just another tool in the box that is vital to patient outcome.
Any questions?
Yes, sir, Mr. Bowman.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Thank you. Chief, run the number again for me.
The vents are so just for clarity, the vents are $21,702 per vent, And we're not putting vents, go ahead, sir.
No, no, that was what I was going to ask.
We're not putting vents on all our units. We're gonna put them on the 2 frontline units, or maybe even one of them on the front line and one on the supervisor's car, depending on where it needs to go to be used. So that the total of those two is we're about $43,000. The IV pumps we are gonna put on all the units. They're $2,269 a piece, so $16,000 for the 7 units.
Thank you, sir.
And can you please follow up again as far as the grants are concerned? You and I had spoken earlier that y'all are going to apply for a grant. There's no certainty, ever that you're going to get
Correct.
the grant, but it doesn't look too terribly.
Yeah, I mean, we put in for state funding on the Rescue Squad Assistance Fund grant, as a county-wide project, so the number is significantly higher than the numbers I gave you. The numbers I gave you are strictly for Isle White Rescue,
And in the best
Sure.
case scenario, you'd be looking for a matching amount.
Correct.
Because that's what the state likes.
half, 50%.
So we're talking probably closer to 30,000 at the end
To
of the
match.
day for that. I have just one last question. I'll turn it over. When, and maybe Laura can help us with this as well, but, or Michael, I've been coming to these meetings a long time. When is the last time that Isle of Wight Volunteer Rescue Squad has asked for any funds in this type of forum from the town of Smithfield?
I'm gonna tell you probably 2001.
Do you remember what that was for?
It was probably, it was when maybe it's later than that. It might have been 2012. The last funding we got from the town was salary contributions for part-time personnel,
But no equipment.
the no equipment. So
Follow-
15 years,
I'm sorry.
probably 15 years.
Follow-up questions for Chief Carroll? Brian, thank you very much. Thank you for the,
Thank you all.
that, I always like to hear those good numbers about Riverside. That is really, it almost gives you chill bumps if you've ever been an EMT and know what time means for sure. So,
Yep.
thank you so very much. Mr. Mayor, if there's no further questions, that concludes the Public Safety Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Bowman. At this time, Water and Sewer Committee has been canceled, and we move to Finance Committee. Mr. Brooks?
Yes, sir. I'd like to open up the Finance Committee along with Vice Mayor Harris and Councilwoman Butler, and we have several things on our agenda for today. First being funding requests for next fiscal year. I'm just going to go in order on the list. Do we have the Geneve shelter here?
Yes.
Come on up, please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Council and Mayor. I'm Marlisa Montgomery, the Executive Director for the Geneve Shelter, and we are here, as always, to request funding from the city. And we are seeing an influx of clients who are staying longer than ever before. We cannot get them out of shelter into affordable housing. And so we had requested $18,000 from the town of Smithfield. We served 120 families, 1,850 nights of emergency shelter. And our utility bills are increasing because, as you all know, utilities have increased tremendously. And we are up to a 90-day stay is now 165 nights. And we can't tell you how draining this is on our budget, because we are a small shelter that's covering the entire Western Tidewater area. And we have to transport our victims and survivors from all over the Western Tidewater area. And so when we're getting these families in and we're not able to get them connected to any affordable housing programs, we're forced to continue to keep them safe in our emergency shelter. We were fortunate last year when I came before the committee to say we increased our bed capacity to 52 beds, and we were really excited that we would never have to try to go back to hotel stays. But we are now facing more victims that are in imminent danger from all of our 6 localities. Imminent danger are the situations where law enforcement are connecting the survivors and victims directly into shelter. And in some cases, law enforcement will be bringing them in if we're not able to meet them in a safe site. And so we're seeing that from Smithfield, we're seeing it from Isle of Wight, we're seeing it from Franklin, we're seeing it from Suffolk. And so we are now forced back to having to put families in these local motels to keep them safe due to the fact that we're not able to get the families who came in earlier in the year out and into permanent housing. And as I was traveling in today, I was realizing, boy, I really don't want to go and say the same thing that I had to say last year. But again, it is a major problem. And just over the last 2 weeks since we requested the funding, we had 2 of our vehicles vandalized and a Cadillac converter stole off our vehicles. So now we're without reasonable transportation. So I requested 18,000, but if the city of Smithfield, the town of Smithfield can squeeze 20, I would greatly appreciate it, because we're really getting hit hard by major cuts, and we're doing everything within our means to write grants, we've done fundraising events, but it's still just not enough. We're trying to create a transitional program to where we're contacting landlords, trying to work out agreements with these landlords if they were to take chances with our survivors. But a lot of times they want 3-4 months of security deposits, because many of our survivors come in with a lot of barriers. They've had previous evictions, they haven't been on the job long enough, they weren't able to get child care secured, and so we are forced to continue to try to provide emergency shelter for them. And so I will go over any stats that you need me to go over. I appreciate the time. I appreciate everything that the town of Smithfield, the local police department, who's doing a wonderful job to help us be connected to these survivors out here. And we also have been utilizing some of the counselors out here in the area to help come in and help with the counseling needs that we're facing with having some of these individuals with mental health conditions. And we're in court every Monday for the JDR court for assault and batteries and protective orders. So if you have any questions for me, please feel free, and I will answer those questions. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Counsel?
if I may. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Thank you for
afternoon.
coming. Approximately how many clients on any given period are you serving that are town of Smithfield residents?
We served 120 last year.
Total of 120?
Yes.
I missed it. And how much money are you asking from Isle of Wight County in your request this year?
We are asking them for 20,000 too. We asked originally for 18, but we don't know what we're going to receive at this point in time. So if I
Okay.
get a chance to go before them, I will ask for additional funds because of our vehicle situation as well.
Okay. I just, in making these determinations, we have to look at what percentage and coming from Smithfield. So if you had 120 in totality last year from the town, do you have any idea for the remaining ones that you served from the county or outside the town, or can you give me an
Well,
idea?
We're seeing more clients coming in from Windsor area, and so when we're in court, we're getting connected. The victim witnesses, our directors are connecting us to these victims. And so I don't have the statistics for Windsor, but I'm definitely knowing that in the last 6 or 7 months, we've been seeing more victims from the Windsor area as well. But we are getting more calls from Smithfield police officers than ever before. And that's new. We always would get a few, but we're getting imminent dangerous calls coming into our emergency hotlines to serve the clients out here in the Smithfield, town of Smithfield.
I'm sorry to hear that, but thank you for what you do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate it.
Certainly. Anybody else? One last question. Roughly, what's your yearly budget?
Our yearly budget is around $202 million, and it's a little bit over. We just reached that mark. this year. But a lot of our funds are still we're waiting to be reimbursed because of some things that happened with the government.
Sure.
Mhm.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next on our list, 1750 Isle of Wight Courthouse, Mr. David Hunley.
I don't know who
afternoon.
made the agenda, but that's kind of hard to follow that presentation, but I'll do my best here. Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and members of Town Council. I am David Hunley, Director of the Board of the Historic 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse. First, we would like to thank you for the support and contributions you have made to the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse for many years. It gives us great pride that the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse is the symbol represented on the town seal. It symbolizes the importance that the building has to our town's history, and most importantly, the beginning of our local government, actually the beginning of our democracy. Our mission is to advance the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse and its remarkable role in the American experience. Our vision is all who visit the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse are engaged by the story of this important building as seen in the context of American history and inspired by its relevance for today's world and into the future. The board appreciates the support you have given us in the past in order for us to continue our mission and vision for the courthouse, and thank you very much for that. 2025 was a great year for the courthouse. First, we celebrated 275 years of the courthouse existence. During the year, we welcomed just over 8,000 visitors. Not only did we welcome visitors from our community and local area, but from all over the United States and several countries around the world. Presently, we have 20 docents, 17 are volunteer, and 3 are paid. Last year, we recorded over 4,000 volunteer hours, which is probably an underestimation. We continued in the year with many of our traditional activities and participated in a few new ones, working closely with Tourism Visitor Center to promote the courthouse. Some of our activities, such as Court Day, which is a reenactment of a court case, participated in Juneteenth celebration. We had the reading of the Declaration of Independence on the courthouse steps. We worked closely with the Daughters of the American Revolution to observe the observance of Constitution Week with the reading of the preamble of the Constitution. And thank you, Mr. Mayor, for participating and signing the Constitution Week proclamation. We participated in the Vintage Markets and Mistletoe Market, which we hosted the Cocktail Garden. We do our annual Ghost Walk. We did an 18th century trade Saturday. We had a very successful Christmas in Smithfield, which brought close to 1,000 or more visitors to Smithfield during the first weekend in December. We opened our doors to welcome the community and visitors to Smithfield during many of the downtown events, such as Galentine's Night, St. Patrick's Day Parade, Witches' Night Out, and the Christmas tree lighting, and participated in the annual Christmas parade this past year as the Grand Marshals. For 2026, we will continue to work towards our mission and vision. We will focus on our programs, activities, of course, many of the events mentioned above. We will continue collaborating with the Isle of Wight County Museum, welcoming school groups and other specialty groups. We will continue our strong relationship, communication, and collaboration with Tourism and Visitor Center. And specifically this year, we will be working on events celebrating our country's 250th anniversary of independence. We are also working on developing strategies to increase our membership, donations, and fundraisers, so we encourage all to become members of the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse. And we continue working very hard to make sure that the courthouse is available free to the public. The board feels strongly that all should have access to the history of this building and what it represents. We have started the year opened on weekends in February, and March through December we're open every day. Please stop by and visit and take a tour. Our commitment to preserving the 1750 Isle of Wight County Courthouse for our community and visitors is possible by our memberships, fundraisers, and donations from the community members and visitors to the courthouse, and of course, the contributions to the town of Smithfield and the county. These contributions make it possible to tell and keep the story alive for this remarkable building and the role it played in the American experience. Our request has usually been and generally been 5,000 requests for our operational budget. Again, thank you again for your support in the past, and thank you for considering your support in the future. Thank you.
Council questions?
Hey, Dave, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
What's the primary revenue stream that supports the courthouse?
Well, it comes from different membership, donations, fundraisers. Wherever possible, we search for grants. Not sure if the council is familiar with the one we just recently received from the Department of Historic Resources, which was a matching grant. The governor awarded the Department of Historic Resources $20 million. And through this application process, you had to go through several steps. We went through the steps. We got through the first step, which narrowed the process from about 216 applicants with a total worth of $195 million, and they had to narrow it down. We got to the second step. The last step, they narrowed the 116 to 35, and we were one of the 35 throughout Virginia that was given the grant money. It was a matching grant, but it was specifically, as Mr. Bowman said earlier, grants. When you write those, they're for specific reasons. And then we did get a grant from WHRO, $6,000 from them that supported all of our living history activities that we've done throughout the year. That will end in June. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman.
If I may have a question, please?
Yeah.
And I meant to ask this question of the shelter and really each group. Do you know what your program expense ratio is, or your ratio between programming cost and then overhead cost?
Ooh, that's a good question, and I can't answer that. Sorry.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, Mr. Hunley, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
And next, we have Isle of Wight Christian Outreach Program. Are they here? There's Rick. Good afternoon, Rick.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I have been at Christian Outreach Program for about 6 years now, and still enjoying it. I would like to apologize up front. I had given Leslie some facts beforehand, and for the last week and a half I've been in the hospital. So I got out yesterday and I didn't have time to put together small figures, but I should be able to answer any questions. As usual, we're seeking some assistance to feed people and many other things too. We're assisting people with keeping their houses livable. Some medical problems might come up. They have no funding. We'll assist them in things like that. And basically we have about 10 programs, between 9 and 10 programs at any one time going and serving the people in Isle of Wight County. And a high percentage of that number is right here in town. And you can tell where people come from. We have people that come a lot more if they're from in town than if they were out in the county someplace. We don't foresee any time when our expenses are going to go down. We have lucked out. We used to try to give out some vegetables. Now it's more, well, let's see what else we can put in with the vegetables. Because we've gotten into some programs. Like, we've got, we just gave out apples. We've had oranges. We've got a shipment coming in next week of oranges, and that's gonna be like 500 pounds of oranges. And they're fresh stuff. They're USDA most time. Potatoes, squash, onions, cabbages, all kinds of healthy foods. And then that gives us the opportunity to put more money towards healthy, like meats, that most of our clients can't afford. And we're trying to do that. And just in general, making it a healthy program, not whatever we can give people. We want to come up with an idea ahead of time that makes things healthy and beneficial to the people themselves. Can I answer any questions for anybody?
Council. Darren?
Yes, sir. I just have the same question. Do you know what your program expense ratio? I see your breakdown. It looks like almost all of your budget goes to those 7 items. Is that remaining budget? Is that your operating expenses and overhead?
A lot of it, yeah. We have quite a few grants.
Do you have employees, or is everyone a volunteer? Do you have employees, or is everyone a
We have
volunteer?
2 employees, one that kind of runs the admin section, answers the phone all the time, and she's just paid by the hour, and we have a cleaning person. Everybody else is a volunteer.
Thank you, sir.
Anybody else?
Well, you do wonderful work. We appreciate you being here. We'll take your request under consideration.
Thank
say-
you, we'd appreciate it.
Do you recall what your funding request is?
Yeah.
Good.
It was
I wanna
15.
say
15.
It was
15,000.
15,000. 15,000.
15,000.
Missed the first page.
And that kind of falls in line with the percentage that we've asked from the county.
Yeah, the prior year was 13,000. All right, thank you.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, next,
Thank you, Rick.
we have Isle of Wight's Art League.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Mayor. My name is Diane Milner. I am the president of the Isle of Wight Arts League, and I'm hoping, there we go. I have visuals this time. Talking with numbers sometimes is a little hard to follow. I'm here today to ask for your support in helping us maintain our presence at the 319 Arts Center on Main Street. This is what we're looking at, trying to cover this year with the monies that I'm not talking about you covering all of it. I'm talking a portion of this, but this is what it's going to cost us starting the 1st of July of this year to maintain that presence at 319. Our building lease has increased over the last 3 years. This will be the conclusion of the increases that we have been advised of. We started out in 2003 with a building lease of $27,000. And you can see we're up to almost $35,000, and that has been over the last 3 years. Now, what does that entail, and where is your portion of it? Next slide, please. Do I do that, or do you? Okay. Well, thanks. I'm technically challenged. Anybody over 70, that's me. All right, this is what we're looking at. These are the people that contribute. These are the organizations that contribute to paying that $38,000 bill. The town of Smithfield contributes about 28.55%. Last year, you gave us out of the town budget $6,000. We are asking for 6.5 this year to include the increase. Now, I also want to point out that your folks submit to the Virginia Commission of the Arts something called the Creative Community Partnership Grant. This is a matching fund that you get, up to $4,500. So if that continues this year, which we think it will, and the increase to up to 6.5, you will be contributing $11,000. We also asked the same thing of the county, and they last year contributed $11,000. The center, or the Isle of Wight Arts League itself asks for $5,000 from the Virginia Commission of the Arts for our general operating support budget. That gives us 12%. The Arts Alliance, which is a foundation out of Norfolk, gives us a 10%, and all of the leftovers to reach that $38,000 mark comes from our earned income that we generate through the Arts League. We have, let's go on to the next one. Our earned income supports 4 programs: the Arts Center, Smithfield Music, Summer Concert Series, and the Sundays at 4. Sundays at 4, well, all of these are self-supporting. Smithfield Music contributes money to the schools to increase their monies available for music programs in the school system. Summer Concert Series provides free Friday night free Friday night concerts down Town Square throughout the summer months. And Summer Concert and the Sundays at 4 does classical music programs. There are 6 presentations they do a year, and they pretty well fund that through their ticket sales. What else do we provide as the Art League to all 4 programs? We do the accounting, tax preparation, building investments, website, classroom facilities, and offer a 7-day-a-week presence in downtown Smithfield. This last year, we saw between 13.5 and 14,000 people go through the combined tourism and art center, bringing dollars to the city and the county. Now, if we really want to go into specifics, our income last year was $198,000. Our expenses were $187,000. Almost 188. We ended the year with a surplus of $10,000. Now, how is our income derived to make up that percentage of what we have to pay our building lease from? We do solicit grants. We have our membership fees. We lease studio space at the Art Center. Individual ticket sales, product sales, sponsorships, and class fees of $164,000. And finally is our stock options and our money market. And we earned about $15,000 off of that. Where does the money go? Well, the money goes to performance fees, production fees, our building lease, which is, as you see, a pretty healthy chunk. Our payroll. Our payroll supports 3 paid part-time employees, the director of the Art Center and 2 docents, more than 8 hours a week because nobody wants to work on Sundays, so we have Saturdays and Sundays, so we pay someone to do that. We also pay, when the people can sign at the Art Center, then we have to pay them for what they have put in there. So that runs us about $51,000. And we have the scholarships that go to the schools. This last year, we paid $13,500 to the county schools and Isle of Wight Academy. And finally, the other expenses are pretty much operating. And that really concludes what I have like to consider. I know somebody's going to ask me a question about my production costs, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, actually, I wasn't going to ask that question because I don't think are you a charity? It's not.
Pardon?
Are you a
We're
charity?
a nonprofit.
Nonprofit, okay.
And I'll entertain any questions.
Do you have any questions? All right, we'll take that under consideration. Thanks for being here. 65. Yes, 6.5. And I'm sorry about that. Next, we have Friends of Smithfield Library.
Hi. I feel like I've seen a lot of you all lately, which has been great. Good afternoon, Town Council, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Vice Mayor, Mr. Town Manager. My name is April Watkins, and I am the branch manager of the Smithfield Library. And with me, I have Hope Carrizzo, who is the president of the Smithfield Friends of the Library. And we're here today to share with you some things we are hoping to do for the next fiscal year and how Town Council can support that. I provided a breakdown and packets for what the money will be going towards most likely, but mostly we're gonna just look at like an overall percentage breakdown. So before I do that, I do wanna share some very cool, exciting accomplishments that we had this year. In February, the Virginia House passed a resolution honoring the Smithfield Library for 100 years of service, which is a very, very cool honor to have. We are also seeing an increase system-wide for circulation. We're up 5% than we were last year. Our meeting room usage is up 16%, and we are up 9% in new users. And that is system-wide, but we are especially seeing that at Smithfield, where we are averaging about 50 new cards a month, and that's an incredible amount of new patrons in this area. We also have a increase of the meeting room usage. It is very hard for people to book space with us right now because we have so many groups that are taking the opportunity to use our free meeting space. So that are some of our accomplishments from this past year. And I also want to talk to you all about, and this is why Hope and I are here together. In the past few years, Town Council has donated money for the library through the Friends of the Library. And we're going to ask this year, should you choose to continue supporting the library, to donate directly to the Smithfield branch as opposed to going through the Friends of the Library. And there is a reason for that. Essentially, what happens is Smithfield has a discretionary fund that is only for our branch. It is for our programs only. It is not touched by anyone else in Blackwater Regional Library. It is only for our branch. That money also does not end at the fiscal year. It rolls over, so if we have money left over at the end of the fiscal year, we can continue with it moving into the next fiscal year. But the main reason that it would help to do it this way is that the system of Blackwater Regional Library will receive additional state aid if our money is being filtered through Blackwater as a whole. The reason is because state aid is provided at a higher rate for communities where they recognize that the town supports the life of the library. This fiscal year, Smithfield received about 27% of the fiscal aid, and we are currently the only library that does not filter our money through that. So we did not contribute, but we received 27% of the state aid. Doing it this way would mean that we would have more state aid coming in, which would directly come back to the Smithfield community. Okay, so what we're asking for. This year we are asking for $10,000 to help with library programming and to help with some space upgrades. And I do realize that is an increase from last year. However, things have gotten quite expensive. So we have also had an increase in program attendance, which has been partially due to some programs I'm going to share with you in a moment. But we are also trying to upgrade the space in small ways that the town could contribute. So one of the things we're asking for, one of my numbers cut off, 35% of that money would be going for youth programming. And that includes things like Story Trails, which is a partnership with the town and the county. We actually have one on Hayden's Lane right now. You're welcome to go take it. The average cost of the Story Walk is $35. In addition to that, we offer children's programming, including Book Bites, which right now is all boys. I've never, in my 15 years as a librarian, seen a book club be all boys, 3rd through 5th grade. It's remarkable. They're a lot of fun. We also will have a summer reading kickoff and a summer reading end of year party. We'll have special events. We're going to look at having some book character costumes so we can really bring some more life into like our little kid programming. And this year we also started a citizen science program, which has people, has kids out in the community conducting research for their town to help at a national level, which is a really great way to just be a citizen in your community. We also have the largest teen program I've ever seen in my 15 years as a librarian. We have between 10 and 15 teens that come every month and every week over the summer, which is remarkable because teens don't want to come to the library, and these kids do. So that's where that money would go. And here are some pictures that we had from this year. There's our book club there at the bottom with some of the boys. We had a new program in December where we had a Whoville cocoa and crafts, and so we had carolers from Hardy Elementary come, and the women's club came and helped run the cocoa bar. It was a really great community event, and it actually had over 100 people come, which is incredible. In terms of adult programming, my number cut off again. We're looking for 25% of the budget, or the money would go towards that. For one thing, we have a Craftsy program that the registration is full. It's an adult crafting program once a month, and it's very well attended. I literally had one last week, and we had 15 people, which is about what our room accommodates for a craft program. We also have several meetups and clubs. We run 2 book clubs, and we also have a new chess club, a new puzzle club. We also host authors, and have one actually coming up the first weekend of April. We have another author. We started something this year, and this is where we've seen the increase in adult programming. Excuse me. We started a program we're calling Saturdays at Smithfield. It's really a different program each month, but some of you have been to these programs. So we have Town Talks, which 2 of our town council members have been at, where we're talking about the town of Smithfield. The next one is actually next month, and they're going to be talking about the architecture of this community and the foundation of that architecture. We also had, for Black History Month, we had a presentation that was a partnership with a local fraternity and sorority alumni group. They brought in a doctor to talk about prostate cancer screening, and that was also very well attended. And this past weekend, I had our first homesteading DIY, which had full registration with a wait list, and we learned how to make sourdough. In addition to that, we're hoping to add in some pub trivia options, some D&D, and local business partnerships where we can be out in the community, not just in the library, so we can sort of have library after hours. And there's some more of our adult programs, and the one down here in the corner is from our 100th anniversary, which was lovely. The last thing is 40% would go towards space upgrades. We're in desperate need of a new Storytime rug. Babies sit and lay on this rug, and ours is very old. So we are trying to get something that's more hygienic for those kids. We're also looking to get new display shelves for new books and just in general to highlight parts of the collection, and then a new magazine holder. And these will help modernize the space and be more aligned with our new shelving and other changes that we're trying to make to the remaining part of the building. And these are the space upgrades that we did this year. If you have not been to the library yet to see our new shelves that were lovingly bought by our friends in the library, they are on casters. We will never have to turn a kid away from programming anymore because we can clear the floor and just have this big group of kids come in. We also got a new water fountain with a water bottle filler, which was a highlight for me. And that rug there in that picture was purchased with town funds from this fiscal year as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions you all have, and Hope is happy to answer any questions as well.
I have one quick question. Can you quickly explain the difference between Friends of the Library and the library? Just a big overview. I understand the rationale of how, where you want the funding to go, but...
So the Friends of the Library is essentially they can do fundraising for us. Since technically I am a government employee, I really can't do direct fundraising, right? So they fund projects for us, they do fundraising, they can apply for grants. Really their job is to just do whatever they can to support their library community. We have a great partnership with them, and we're having our annual book sale coming up in a couple weeks, come buy books, and all of that money goes back to the library as well.
I figured that's what it was, just wanted clarification.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for the library?
Just
Friends
one.
on?
Going back to the mechanism you'd ask us to make sure that the money went, make sure I understood, go to the Friends of the Library because of the fund.
We wanted to come to the Smithfield Library as opposed to the Friends of the Library.
Okay, so my question would be, over the past years, if there was any residual left, did that money then revert to somewhere other than
No.
Smithfield?
That's an excellent question. So right now, the money has been going to the Friends of the Library, and it still lives there. If it's not spent, it still lives there, but I've been spending the money. But the money that, right, because it's there. I'm trying to create.
Because you can.
But no, the money does not go anywhere else. The discretionary fund is not touched at all by anyone except for the branch manager of the Smithfield Library. And we don't actually, I can actually answer your question because we try to have a return on investment for programs of less than $5 a patron. So we don't want to be spending a lot of money recklessly because we're a community space. We want to be responsible with the money. However, Blackwater can I can send you every month if you wanted. I could show you our breakdown of discretionary fund because every month I get that money. It does not go to any other part of Blackwater.
Yes, and Friends of the Library is perfectly fine with moving that disbursement back to the library because it's not a fundraising. This isn't a fundraising event, and having it go directly into Blackwater and Smithfield makes it easier for her to write checks for events instead of calling us and saying, can somebody come up here and write a check for this? It makes it easier for our treasurer to just manage our fundraising monies and where they go and how it's being displayed. It's a lot of work managing what's coming from the town of Smithfield and what we do. So this is just a really nice clean break where she's in charge of library funds. We shouldn't be in charge of library funds. We should be in charge of when she asks us for money and we fundraise and then we give it to her. That's our purpose. We shouldn't be controlling anything that she's doing.
Mr. Chairman, to that point,
Yep.
help me out a little bit. 501c3.
Yes, sir.
You,
That's us.
We are also considered a nonprofit, but we're also a government entity because we're funded by the county, and Cortland is like our main hub.
okay. All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Certainly.
Mr. Chairman, a follow-up on that question, if you will, please. What is the financial benefit to the library specifically if the money comes directly to you?
So I can't give you like an exact number, but the fact that we already receive more of the budget from the state aid, that will also come back to us. Smithfield is the busiest of all of the libraries, and we circulate the most materials. So we always get a bigger chunk of the money that comes from the state.
Okay, let me try again.
Oh, sorry.
If we write you a check for $5,000, if it goes through the library, the Friends, do you have access to that total $5,000?
Oh, yes. I do, yes. It's just
If the
that,
check comes directly to you, do you have access to that total $5,000?
yes.
None goes into the general pot for Blackwater?
None of it goes into the general fund for Blackwater. Correct.
Okay. And one final question, if I may.
Please.
Tight times, as you know, and you're listening to other people.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us to absolutely make a contribution and do so conditionally that our money would only be used for programs and not space improvement type of those things?
Yeah, that would be fine. Are you including in that things like buying a new rug? Because that was something you all did this fiscal year, so that's why
I have no specific in mind
Okay.
right now, I'm just
yes,
wondering how we could.
Yes, we've been very clear. With the money that has been allocated to Friends of the Library, we've made sure that what has been obligated was only spent on that. No other way.
And we don't intend to use town funds to do things like buy new shelves. That is a project that is funded by either the Friends, Blackwater, or the county, because they own our building.
And Blackwater did give $10,000 towards the shelves, and we
Yes.
gave, what, 20?
It was $30,000 for the new shelves, 10 of it came from Blackwater directly, and 20 came from the Friends.
Thank you.
Okay, great.
Chairman, I have a question.
Please.
And just to clarify what, I've talked to April about this too, in terms of the money going directly to the library's fund, that helps the library get more state aid. It shows that the local town has a more invested interest in the library, that they're supportive of the library, and that's what the state looks at when they divvy up their funds. And you can clarify that more, April, but.
Yeah, that's pretty
and
much
that's what made a difference to me, is that it helps them get more grants and aids through the state.
And we certainly could verify however you felt was appropriate that the money that was given from the town was only spent at the Smithfield Library.
All right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll take that under consideration. All right, next up, we have the Children's Center. Hello and welcome.
Hello, thank you for having us for the first time. I'm Christy Daly, brand new Executive Director at the Children's Center, just started in September. So I brought Rosalind Cutchins, former Executive Director, with me in case I can't answer some of your questions. So thank you for having us. I'm excited to tell you today all the amazing things we do at the Children's Center to support the town of Smithfield, to support your babies and your future. Okay, so where we started, we are a 501c3 nonprofit organization. There it is. Serving all of Western Tidewater, including Smithfield. We started in 1983. We became incorporated, serving 63 children in our first year through early intervention, which is a special education program. We went into children's homes, or we borrowed rooms from local churches because we didn't have space of our own, training families how to deal with their child with special needs. In 1984, we started our first building, which you're seeing here, that happened to be in Franklin, so we could start good quality early childhood programs, so we weren't only in homes. It gave us a way to, they called it mainstreaming at the time, to get children with special needs in the same room with typically developing children. So we were able to do that starting in Franklin, but we wanted to move throughout Western Tidewater. We wanted to move into Smithfield. So we came and we worked with local churches. They gave us space to do play groups, to have celebrations. We worked with Smithfield Baptist, Trinity Methodist, and Main Street Baptist. In 1998, the Children's Center received the grant for Early Head Start, which is a poverty-based program through the federal government. We were given funding for 100 kids throughout Western Tidewater. And in 2003, we expanded to Smithfield, and we were able to build that building on James Avenue that you see pictured. In 2012, the Children's Center became the grantee for Head Start throughout Western Tidewater, which is the poverty-based program serving 4- and 5-year-olds. Amazing program. So we have classrooms. We also have a building on Washington Street as well. So we have 2 buildings in the town of Smithfield serving children in the classroom. So we're feeding them, we're providing diaper and wipes, we're doing good kindergarten prep, but we're also doing lots of other things. We are making sure every child in our program has a medical home or a pediatrician. We help them get to those appointments. We make sure they have a dental home. We do hearing and vision screenings annually, and we do developmental screenings twice a year for all of the children in our programs. So we moved from one room in a church. There's that picture you're seeing is our building on Washington Street, right down the road, to now we have 7 buildings, 2 of which are in the town of Smithfield. Over 200 employees. We have about a $15 million budget, 4 programs. So early intervention is the special ed program that we're still doing, serving infants and toddlers with special needs. So before they can go to the school system for special education, we can start the day they're born. We have community childcare in Franklin and in Suffolk for paying families, but we do have some Smithfield families that come to those locations for community childcare. Early Head Start and Head Start are our poverty-based programs. We currently have 2 Early Head Start classrooms in Smithfield and 1 Head Start classroom in Smithfield. And our long-term board members representing Isle of Wight are Don Robertson and Kirsten Erickson. Our mission is to nurture and educate children and their families, and we do a great job of that. And so here's some numbers for you. We didn't have Smithfield specific numbers, but looking at last year's data, here's the number of children served in Isle of Wight. So early intervention, that special ed program, we served 85 children. Pediatric therapy, we have speech therapy and occupational therapy, served 69 children. Early Head Start had 28, Head Start had 25, and 4 were in community child care. So we are here today seeking funding. I never even had to look at my notes. So asking for $5,000 donation to not only invest in the programs that we already have and the children in Smithfield, but also it gives us an avenue to pull down federal funding. So a big chunk of our budget comes from federal funding, but we have to have a 20% match. So every dollar that you would give us would help us draw $4 from the federal government back into Western Tidewater. So it's a double gift. I've got some more numbers. I actually brought a handout with you with some of those numbers that you might have questions about that I'll leave, but any questions?
Mr. Chairman?
Council, please.
The match from the federal government, is that guaranteed? If we put $5,000, we will get $4 for every dollar that we put in, guaranteed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Wow.
Thank you.
Good question.
Yes,
Darren?
real quick, do you know your program expense ratio or how much of your funding or your budget is spent on programs versus overhead?
We do. Some of that is up here. It breaks it down: Head Start, Early Head Start, special ed, and community child care. Yep, so I'll leave that with you.
And I think you're asking about administrative percentage?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Head Start has a 15% match on administration. You're not allowed to go over 15% administration. We typically are running about 9 to 11%.
Thank you. And Mr. Brooks, I think that's the last one. I know we have one more. I have a general question when we're done with the invitees.
With them or with?
All of them.
Okay, yeah, we still got one more. Okay. Well, I learned something new. I thought both your buildings were on the same street, but they're not. One's on Washington, one's on James. And I live right around the corner.
Yes.
Well, good. I appreciate it. Anybody else have any questions?
I only have one question. And I didn't ask that day I was there, but and you said no, you didn't have the numbers broken down. Is there any way to break the numbers down for children that actually live in Smithfield as opposed to living in Isle of Wight?
We typically do that, our database typically does that by zip code. So
Zip code,
gets to
okay.
be really quite confusing.
Yes.
In many of our
Very
areas.
much so.
And honestly, I don't know this. Is it possible that someone has a Smithfield address but actually lives outside of the town?
Yes.
That's what makes it very
Most of them.
complicated for us.
Yeah, okay.
Because that's the way our database works.
Yeah.
No problem.
Okay. All right, well, thanks for being here, and,
Thanks for having us.
I'm sorry, I think we have one more question.
Thank you first for finally getting here. Great presentation, appreciate your energy. As a, I have to add in my head, 42-year educator, starting helping children where you do tells their future. You know that, and I'm sure everybody at the table does, and we just want to thank you for what you do, and hopefully we'll be able to become a partner with you guys.
You are very welcome. It is an honor to do what we do.
Great. All right, thank you.
Thank you all.
All right, actually, yeah, we only have one more on the list, and that is the DeGood Foundation. Yeah. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. making you hear both of us pretty good. I appreciate the opportunity for us to be here today, and for your commitment to the organization that we've heard so many from, that they're doing great things, all serving Smithfield residents. My name is Kyle DeGood. If we haven't had the chance to meet yet, I serve as the founder and executive director for the DeGood Foundation. With me is Catherine Hale Elliott, who, as a volunteer, wonderful volunteer, serves as our development coordinator. And our organization serves as a local program partner for Dolly Parton's Imagination Library. And we're grateful for the chance to share what this program is doing right here in Smithfield and what a $3,000 investment from the town may be able to accomplish. As a lot of us may not already know, or we may know, that the most critical window for brain development happens much before a child even enters a classroom. From birth to age 5, children are forming the literacy and language skills that shape their educational outcomes, their success in school, and ultimately their future workforce participation. And what happens in those first 5 years matters enormously. In fact, between 0 and 5, it's about 90% of a child's adult brain is formed. And if you haven't heard of the program, Dolly Parton's Imagination Library is a book gifting program. It mails a free, high-quality, age-appropriate book every single month to enrolled children from the time they're born until they turn 5 and they're off to kindergarten. And every book arrives in the mail, addressed to the child with their name on the mailing label, so it creates this really amazing gifting experience that also promotes ownership of that book. This happens at no cost to families, regardless of their zip code, their background, or their income. And every book also includes some reading tips curated by the Library of Congress specific to that title. That way our caregivers can help build stronger literacy routines throughout the home, and not just for that one specific child, and help also bring that story to life, make it fun, and help them in their parent journey as well. And one thing I always want to clarify, because it surprises people, and I might get a little in trouble for being this direct, but Dolly Parton does not pay for the books. Her foundation provides the national infrastructure, the expert book selection from Penguin Random House as the exclusive publisher, and with people far smarter than I ever could be in early literacy, and of course the mailing logistics out of a warehouse in Knoxville. But the cost of the books and the postage that happen in the community is the responsibility of local program partners like our organization to fund that, and the cost is approximately about $2.60 per child every month, or if you want to translate, it's about $31 a year. Where we're very fortunate is the Commonwealth does provide a 50% state match for Imagination Library programs as part of a statewide expansion. So every local dollar goes twice as far and serves twice as many kids. And I'll let Catherine share you more of the fun stuff with you.
So we launched the Imagination Library program for Isle of Wight in February of 2023 with Smithfield Foods. They partnered with us on that. And since that time, 720 children were enrolled in just the Isle of Wight area. So right now, there's 175 children within the town of Smithfield that are enrolled. They get books every month in the mail until they graduate out of our program at 5. There's approximately 420 children in Smithfield, so we have 42% of the kids enrolled in our program already. What we'd like to do is expand and grow and have more of the kids in Smithfield enrolled in the program. That's why we're requesting the $3,000. $3,000 covers 190 kids getting their books every month in the mail for an entire year. That goes a long way. It's 2,280 books, and that helps guarantee that the children enrolled in the program won't have any interruptions to their book delivery. We can allocate private philanthropy to expand access and enroll even more kids. We've seen firsthand in the peninsula, where we also run a program over there, when funding gets tight, we have to go on a wait list. We have to pause enrollment and just wait until we get the funding together. So this $3,000 helps Smithfield not to have to be put on a wait list. We can continue the expansion and continue to get more kids enrolled in our program.
And as excuse me, all that stuff going around these days. As Catherine shared, an investment of about $3,000 goes a lot farther than the number suggests. Combined with the 50% match from the Commonwealth, it helps anchor the public-private partnership model that makes the program sustainable. And our experience, and I'll help clarify a little bit of our experience, and Catherine led to it, the DeGood Foundation serves as the program partner for the Imagination Library for the entirety of the peninsulas, which include the Peninsula, Middle Peninsula, Isle of Wight, and Greater Williamsburg. We've been the program partner for about 7 years. We've been in operation for 9. We currently have 6,500 children receiving free books every single month across the entire service area and have mailed well over 235,000 books. So in our experience, when our locality partners invest alongside the Commonwealth, it signals not only to the Commonwealth and our families that the program is secure, but more importantly to our private donors as well, whether it be individuals, corporations, or foundations, that Smithfield stands behind the work, and it often encourages additional giving. We've seen that recently, especially in Gloucester County and York County as well. And there's some significant research behind this program that is strong and growing, and a recently published global study of the Imagination Library, and I mean recent, like we got the fact sheet probably a month ago. It was the largest data study and data collection on early childhood literacy that was ever completed in the world, and it found that after just receiving 10 books from the Imagination Library, children were 4 times more likely to demonstrate stronger emerging literacy skills. They were 9 times more likely to be read 4 or more days per week, and 52% of those kids performed better on their reading tests in both kindergarten and 3rd grade compared to children not enrolled in the program. And those are pretty encouraging numbers, but they represent a lot more than just that success. Children are coming to kindergarten more prepared. Teachers are spending less time on remediation, and families are building reading habits that last well beyond the program itself. All of which, of course, as we've seen in the few presentations today, supports our library and school division partners with increases in book circulation, activities, kindergarten readiness rates, and even 3rd grade literacy scores. And the broader economic case, this is where I nerd out beyond the early childhood brain science, is for early childhood development investments. A Nobel Prize winning economist, James Heckman, documented that high quality birth to 5 programs generate a 13% annual return on investment. The Imagination Library is just one piece of that larger ecosystem that puts books into the homes regardless of background or zip code, building reading routines and reaching children during that exact critical window that economists and researchers consistently identify as the highest leverage point for public investment. The running joke that we'll make in the office is it is a lot easier and cheaper to get to them and support them when they're young, small, and squishy than when they get a little bit older and they're jaded or they don't want to learn as much. And the books we're mailing to the over 175 Smithfield children right now are part of that foundation. This request helps keep it that way and opens the door for even more children and families. This request of funding does not fill gaps. It continues the support for the children and families that we're already serving, allowing private philanthropy to allow us to enroll more families and increase access to the program. We'd be honored with the town's partnership, and we're happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Council?
I'm wondering how it's a great program, obviously. How do you get new families involved? Where do you go to reach those families?
There's a variety of different ways. The most common is they'll find us online, either through our website or the Imagination Library website. We get new registrations every single day through the online portals. We have great partnerships with a lot of local organizations such as the Children's Center, Christian Outreach Program, the Smithfield Library branch as well, Department of Social Services, and we also work with both Riverside and Centerra to refer patients to it, or newborns to us as well in the program.
Okay, so that was my question. You're reaching all income levels, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Brooks?
Yes.
Same question. Do you know the program versus expense ratio for your charity?
89%.
Thank you.
Did you say 89?
89%, yes. Thank you.
Well, I was here a couple of years ago for the launching of that in this building.
Just over across the
It was
wall.
right over here. So,
Yes,
yeah, it's
you
good to see you back, and I'm assuming that Smithfield Foods, our wonderful benefactor here in town, is still a big part of your program, I would assume.
That's what we're hoping. We haven't heard back on what will happen this year, is because as we know, private philanthropy does shift, and especially with a lot of recent things that have happened in the world. So we're keeping our fingers crossed.
Okay.
They've been great partners so far.
Good luck with that. I did have a basic question. I probably should have done a little more research. The foundation, it's a 501c3?
It is a 501c3,
Okay.
yes.
That's great.
Mr. Chairman, just
Please.
one comment. I think when we start deciding to dole out taxpayer dollars for these type of undertakings, I think we should look at how efficient the system is.
Yeah.
And I happen to have an 18-month-old granddaughter that is the benefactor of that wonderful program. And I can tell you that I think that we sent her card or her application in, And within 2 months, it had been processed and she received her first book, so thank you very much for that.
So actually, Mr. Brooks, that kind of dovetails into my comment. The PE ratio is the standard for allowing you to compare apples to oranges, charities versus charities or nonprofits. And the real problem, and I can speak from experience of volunteering to work for a charity and going through their training and realizing how much they paid their administrative and executive staff, if your PE ratio is over 20, 25%, or in your case, same number, but less than 80%, 85 or 75%, then you're not spending the money that you're getting very well, basically. So it may be helpful in the future if we're having a rash of, or a series of these coming in to just forward ask that question, because it's sometimes kind of hard, especially for smaller charities. It's a little more difficult to figure out. A big charity, you know it right off the cuff, but like the courthouse, was a little easier to figure out just from looking at their numbers. But and it's standard. You might, assistant or deputy chief, if you were in the military and you dealt with combined federal campaign, every charity has a PE ratio, and that helps you navigate through it. You guys are probably familiar with it. So, thank you.
Certainly. Anybody else? All right, well, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, I believe that concludes the funding request. Now I'll move on to item B, and I'm going to turn it right on over to our treasurer, Laura Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Mr. Mayor and members of council, I want to talk very briefly about revenues right now. If you'll look at the slide on your presentation materials, it'll show you that revenue to budget right now is $5.4 million, and we're at 36.33% of our budgeted revenue. I want to talk about some of the collection efforts that we're taking. We sent out delinquent bills, and what they were due at the end of February. We've given folks a little bit of time to pay their bills, and now we're getting ready to send out more collection notices. I'm working on the delinquent collection notices that will go out by Virginia auction. And some of the folks still have not paid, even though they were supposed to pay last year. They'll be getting a shorter notice saying that we're going to put that little metal clamp on your car so that you are encouraged to pay your bill again. And we're working on the delinquent notices that will go out. I looked at the last list of it, and there are about 3,000 lines, but that includes multiple things that maybe needed to take it out and condense. That doesn't mean there are 3,000 people that owe. That means there are 3,000 vehicles that need to pay their tax bill. Excuse me. I'll go over just a couple of them to give you an idea of what we've been collecting. The first thing that goes out is what's called the delinquent collection notice. That'll give you 30 days. And these people know they've owed because they actually owed December the 5th. They're given another delinquent notice that goes out 45 days after they were supposed to pay. That notice gives them 30 days, and that says that what we'll do is we will boot your car. As an example, we sent out one last week to a business, and they owed $7,813. And that's just one of them. We sent out another one that they owed from taxes way back, but they're also, I'm losing my voice, sorry. Their total due was about $2,000. There's no really one that's too small. We don't send out anything under $10. But I'll keep you all posted on how many we're getting ready to send, how much we will send out by the next meeting. I have another one that's going out tomorrow for $2,000. Some of them are businesses. We did collect a lot from one business most recently. I don't know where my voice is going, sorry. So there's that. We are expecting bank franchise taxes that are due in June, and that's $156,000. While that's not that much, we're starting to see reports from the banks, and it's a calculation of what their overall deposits are in our town. So you can see above right there the individual taxes that come in through the various buckets. It's also on pages 3 through 6 of your packet of financial statements. Any questions on that revenue? Okay. We'll talk about expenses. They are trending pretty much what we expect them to do this time of year. which is about 52% of budget. And given the fact that we've been through more than 6 months of the year, that's not that bad, not at all. We are paying bills. We're not just holding back on not paying bills, although sometimes I'd like to do that. So some of the, if you look at the individual lines on the expenses for the departments, some look like they're over, but I'm getting ready to do some more budget transfers so that budget transfers from specific lines in the individual budgets, not from department to department. So, as an example, I've overspent a little bit of money on technology, but I'm getting ready to move it over from one of my other lines to another. And that's just going with a new system that we're trying to implement. Okay. Now we'll talk about cash. If you will look at the slide that talks about our cash balances in our funds, I included the bank balances on there as well and the general ledger balances. But as you will notice, if you look at the last line that says all, and total investments and usable funds in all, we have in $17.7 million. Now, we'll talk about, we'll show you just briefly the graphs that are associated with those. And I'm going to flip through those because they're already captured on the sheet. Our debt's much better though since we paid off our, what is it, the line that you show up there. It shows a loan, it's the second line down, and it will show that we paid off $491,000. So right now our debt is only at $2.4 million. Any questions on that? That would be the first line, Series 2020A-2. Nope. Okay. Let's talk about our investments, which right now, as of the end of February, we earned $65,000. Total this year, we've earned $631,000. Unfortunately, Old Point Bank merged with Town Bank, and they forgot to pay us interest on our bank accounts, which we brought it to their attention, and they gave us interest a couple weeks later. It wasn't that much money, though. It was only about $150, but they did pay it. And we constantly watch them to make sure they don't forget. This little one's scary right here. I don't like it very much, but I wanted to show it to you where our investment trends are going. Excuse me, where the rate of return is trending, and it seems to be trending downward, which is pretty much to be expected, seeing that the 90-day T-bill rate is reduced, as well as the one-year T-bill rate, which I've sort of benchmarked us to that to see how we're doing. And I looked at us against ourselves for last year, and we're down 0.58 from the prior year. All right. This sheet shows that we're in compliance with our investment portfolio. And that's tiny, tiny, tiny print. And as I mentioned earlier, our overall return for the year is $633,000. My goal this year is $1 million, but I don't know if we'll be able to hit that. I'll keep working on that. And the rest of the presentation is just the sheets and the summary statements that come from Virginia Investment Pool. That's all I have.
All right, council, any questions for Ms. Ross?
Mr. Brooks, I have a question
Please.
for Ms. Ross and Mr. Stallings. Just, I know budget time's approaching, hence with the folks asking for funds and everything. As we're approaching that, I know, do you have any outlook, or maybe I'm a little too early on our staff, as far as what we would, if we'll be seeking to do a pay increase on our staff? And the reason I ask that is in preparation for that, I wondered if we might discuss, or if there's some research that needs to be done on additional ways besides financial motivation. That we had talked about at some point, that there are localities in our region that they know they're not going to be number one, but they're happy to be number two, right? And we had talked about we could be the best small locality, or some type of metric, and we never really got to that, but we did discuss some actual substantive things, such as, if there was interest in a 4-day work week for our staff, or some type of way that could be put into place for our staff. And I could see that being a very great incentive, non-financial incentive. But I'd just like to bring that up in this financial capacity, that as we're preparing for our budget discussions, that we also bring some additional things that, whether, like last year, I think we were able to achieve some lower healthcare costs for our employees. So that comes to mind because we've discussed it, but if there are other things that you or HR leadership has in mind that we can dovetail into the budget discussions, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Collier. I do want to bring something up because I was watching the Board of Supervisors last meeting, this very last meeting, and Supervisor Roundtree brought up a fact when they were talking about budgets, and school board is requesting a lot of money. It is a trending fact that the sales tax that has been collected within the county is on a 6-month slide in the tune of 4%. So that's sales tax. That's just true sales tax. So our portion of sales tax goes through the county. County collects it, a little formula comes down, and we get our money. But that is showing you that as costs have increased, people are spending more money, yet the tax that we're receiving is going down. So something's going on. And I have not talked to the Commissioner of Revenue, but he is extremely astute. He could probably paint a good picture. But in my monthly meeting with Laura last week, she brought that up, and it just so happened it dovetailed right on to that supervisor's meeting, and it kind of surprised me because that's something to really look at. I mean, we depend on that for budgetary reasons, and when that part of our revenue is shrinking, we need to react. So I just bring that up as a caution to let everybody know we got to look at this and we got to figure out what's going on, because people aren't, if that revenue's not coming in, it's just not.
And meals tax could start to decline as well. That's one of our largest revenue producers beside real estate taxes.
Right.
That's right.
Yep.
Okay. All right, anything else for Ms. Ross? All right, thank you, Laura. And next on finance is recommendation to award vehicle maintenance contract. I'm going to turn that over to you, Michael.
Yes, sir. This is the contract for vehicle maintenance town-wide. We put that out to bid each year so we know what our estimated cost per hour, those things are, and we get a pretty decent turnaround time. We received one bid, and it was from Dave's Service Center. That's who currently has our contract, and we've been happy with them. So we do recommend awarding the contract to them again. If there's any questions, I'd be glad to answer them. If not, it'll be on your April council
Mr. Brooks,
meeting.
I have a question.
Please.
Michael, is that all of our vehicles, including police?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
And they're pretty good about when a police car shows up trying to put it in the front of the line because they know we need it back.
Anybody else? All right. And let's see. Next are invoices over $20,000, and we have 3. First one, Virginia Control and Electrical Services for heat, HVAC work in the police building, $23,596. Again, the same company for generator at pump station on Cary Street, $96,600. And last, Xylem for $55,032.96. Any questions about those? Those will be forwarded to council for approval. And with that, I will conclude the Finance Committee meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Brooks. This time, Parks and Recreation Committee has been canceled, along with Public Works Committee has also been canceled. I'll move to Public Buildings and Welfare. Mrs. Butler.
Thank you, Mayor Smith. The committee is made up of myself, Vice Mayor Harris, and Councilman Cutler. The first thing on Public Buildings and Welfare is A, pre-public hearing discussion for rezoning the comprehensive plan and amendment and future land use map amendment.
Yes, thank you. The applicant is requesting the rezoning of .251 acres of property from conditional suburban residential to light industrial. This would also be a request to alter the comprehensive plan through the future land use map, changing residential mixed use to flex industrial. This application will facilitate an addition on the property that will meet the required setbacks for 19351 Battery Park Road. The Planning Commission did favorably recommend this application at the March 10th meeting. Town Council's action would be the first, a decision on the rezoning from CSR to I1, and then a second decision on the comprehensive plan amendment, future land use map amendment from residential mixed use to flex industrial. I will tell you that the applicant spoke at the Planning Commission meeting and described this as a land swap with the property owner. The applicant needs the right-of-way in order to install the water line that will run around the roundabout, which will run through the property. So for the right-of-way, the applicant is giving 19351 Battery Park Road this additional area, and that will allow that property owner to build an addition onto the side of his building. Because it is zoned I1, it is a required 50-foot side yard setback, which is why they needed this additional acreage. And so it was mutually beneficial for both parties involved. Thank you.
Tammy, wasn't there a discussion about making this transaction? Napolitano also mentioned underground utilities as opposed to
boring under
Right.
Battery Park Road. Right. This is going to give him the right-of-way in order to install those utilities so that he can maintain them on that side of the road.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions or discussion about? If not, then we will move this to town council to put on the agenda to vote on it. B is accept utility easement for Liberty Baptist Church.
Yes, so in the interest of time, I can just combine B and C into one.
Okay, they're the same, okay.
Virginia Code 15-2-1803 does require town council to accept a covenant of real estate. Per the approved Liberty Live site plan, a 2,608.488 square foot utility easement was dedicated to the town of Smithfield. This was required for their plans. Liberty Live did provide the required easement on the easement plat. Secondly, which is item C, Battery Park Storage Site Plan, a 10 by 15 foot utility easement was needed in order to be dedicated to the town of Smithfield. Battery Park Storage did provide the required easement on the easement plat. The town needs to accept both of these dedicated easements in order to have access to our utility infrastructure for maintenance. Thank you.
Any questions or comments? I did have a question about this, because I know that Liberty Baptist Church did not come to us with any SUPs. Well, and the storage facility had been approved some time ago. What I wasn't understanding, since the easement was already on the plat, why did it have to come back to us to be approved?
It was not originally on the plat.
It was not originally.
Once they identified their approved site plan, we needed to have a utility easement for both of those properties in order to have access for maintenance of our utility infrastructure.
Okay, all right. Thank you. If there are no comments, we'll move this on to town council meeting next week. The supplemental agreement of the subdivision agreement for Phase A1 of Mallory Point.
So item D actually follows off B and C.
I'm sorry, I skipped that.
This is a resolution that would actually allow the town manager to accept required utility easements on behalf of the town in accordance with section 38B 6 and 7. The town does need these utility easements in order to ensure access to our utility infrastructure. This resolution would allow the town manager to accept these utility easements.
Question. Is that just for these two, or is that in perpetuity going
That
forward?
would be for future utility easements.
Okay.
Yeah, it would prevent them from having to come back to you, so when we've identified we need these easements, when we get a property owner willing to give them to us, we can go ahead and execute it and get them recorded.
Okay, makes sense to me. Thank you.
I have a question. Is this something that normally we would hear about ahead of time before? I mean, it seems like this is after the fact since they're both being built. Wouldn't that come initially beforehand? It would all be arranged when the site is approved and all that, or no? Why?
It would
Not
be a
necessarily.
mix, because sometimes site conditions change or something is identified after the fact that means the easement needs to be bigger or adjusted, and that way it would give us the ability to accept that.
Darren?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For the resolution authorizing the acceptance in Part D, would there be, so it sounds like that entails that the town would acquire property and you would accept it on our behalf. We wouldn't have to do what we just did. How would we know that the town had acquired property? Is there some other notification mechanism that is driven by a statute or code that we would become informed, or would it be just on your cognizance?
If we were actively acquiring property, like physically purchasing the land, then it would still have to come to you. This would just be when we get an easement on someone else's land, so we don't actually take ownership of the land, we would only obtain the easement. So if we were actually acquiring physical property, then it would still have to come to you. But this would just be where somebody's given us an easement to be able to access our utilities or maintain our utilities.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yes, thank you. Just to follow up on that,
Yes, sir.
I heard every word you said. I'm just not sure I heard the answer. If that happens, is there a procedure in place to notify council and the public that we have accepted an easement?
We can create a notification process to where if we are obtaining an easement somewhere, we let you guys know about that. It's not going to happen all the time, but it does happen. So we could create some process to where when we've obtained an easement, we let you know.
I will say, according to Virginia code, when the easement is obtained in conjunction with the subdivision, then we do not bring it before council for acceptance. Virginia code allows us just to accept it with that subdivision and that final plat of land.
Yeah, I understand that. I'm not questioning the practice or the legality. I just like to be informed of, what people think we know.
Any more discussion on the resolution? If not, we'll move that on to town council meeting, and I guess E is next.
Yes, ma'am. This is a supplemental agreement to the subdivision agreement for Phase A, Section 1 of Mallory Point. The developer owner has completed a majority of the improvements required by the subdivision agreement. However, the final course asphalt, which is the top coat, has not been applied to the roads. The town does not want the top coat applied at this time, as there's still active construction in the area which could potentially damage the top coat. This supplemental agreement allows the developer owner to bond the top coat up until it is applied, at which point we would then go into our 2-year warranty period. This is favorable to the town because we will allow the construction traffic to continue utilizing base asphalt, not damaging any top coat. Not approving this agreement would require the developer owner to install the top coat prior to the completion of construction. After that 2-year defect period, the town would then be responsible for any damage to the top coat and maintenance of the roads. Additionally, again, the developer will provide a defect bond in the amount of 20% of the cost, which is our standard procedures, for a 2-year defect bond, should any defects become apparent once that top coat is in place. Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah, just a simple question. How did this come up? How did it arrive? Because I'm glad it did, but
The developer is ready to go into the defect period for Phase A, Section 1. In order to go into the defect period, everything would have to be completed, including the top coat. Right now, we do not want them to go ahead and put the top coat on. And so we drafted this supplementary agreement in order to make sure that that top coat was bonded so that we ensured that it would be put on. And then again, we would then go into that 2-year defect period after that top coat is applied. This just allows us more time for the developer to continue his construction traffic without going straight into defect now.
I have a question, please. Is this just standard procedure in other localities, or have we done this before?
This is standard. Again, this is favorable to the town. This
Right.
is-
I mean, it makes
this is what
sense
we
to me.
want.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
makes sense,
Yes,
but
ma'am.
I just want to make sure we're not doing something crazy here. Thank you.
I also have a question.
Vice Mayor Harris.
Thank you. Tammy, once all of that is done in the 2-year period, does the town now become responsible for the maintenance of the roads interior to that development?
That is correct. We would accept the roads into our maintenance system.
They would then go into the VDOT system, and we would get the per lane mile maintenance funds that's associated with that.
So VDOT would be responsible for
No,
maintaining?
we're responsible, but because it's in VDOT's system and it's in the town and we're maintaining it, we would get those maintenance funds from VDOT.
Oh, okay.
I was just going to add, this is a, I guess, VDOT approved method that they've been using across Hampton roads on a lot of newer subdivisions to basically extend the longevity of those roads and those subdivisions. It keeps that construction traffic off your final riding surface during construction. And, you know, I think the residents of that new neighborhood will end up with a better riding surface. And we'll also end up with less maintenance concerns in that initial, 10, 15-year lifespan of that surface asphalt.
Ms. Butler? Yeah, it almost sounds like it should be a standard part of the process. I mean, is there somewhere we can do better with this that we don't?
It will be standard moving forward.
Thank you.
Any more comments or any more questions? If not, we'll move this forward to town council. F is discussion item land matrix special use permit.
Yes, thank you. So this is just a continuation of our discussion from last month. You have, if you weren't already provided, you have in front of you, again, the matrix turned into the words, and so we have what it would look like across those residential zoning districts for that community conservation, what the permitted uses would be, what the uses permitted by special use permit, and then you also have what it is as existing. Again, this came directly from that matrix so that you could visualize. Thank you.
Questions and or discussion? None?
Hold on. Sure. Ms. Butler, if I may. Tammy, what was the motivation behind doing all of this?
So it started as staff split. It's, again, an ongoing project of just looking at the zoning ordinance. We had over 380 uses that we were able to combine and make it easier across zoning districts. If you look at the staff report, we had commercial recreation establishments, indoor uses, commercial recreation establishments, indoor uses, commercial recreation facilities, indoor and outdoor. And there were 7 of them that we were able to condense into just one: commercial recreation facilities, indoor or outdoor. And again, that brought us down to about 153 uses. When we got to Planning Commission wanted to make some specific changes. The car washes were permitted in HRC and an SUP in our planned shopping center. They wanted to make sure that they saw all car washes, and so they wanted it as SUPs. So as we started going through, this started back in August, so as we started going through, staff and planning commissioners, we tweaked to try to make sure that what was in each zoning district worked for that. We tried to consolidate. Again, there was subjective staff, subject matter expert suggestions to Planning Commission. And again, one of those examples was that Planning Commission didn't want to see car washes, and so wanted to make sure that those changed to SUPs.
Thank you. You kind of shared that with us at the previous meeting as well. So this is an effort to streamline and clarify. Rather, nothing was particularly broken in terms of what we were trying to allow. This allows us to control a little bit better, whether it's by right or by SUP.
So for example, one thing that sparked this was the Sheetz gas station and the fueling station over at Kroger. At some point, somebody had added gasoline sales establishments to HRC as a by right use. However, our definitions define service stations as dispensing gasoline. And so service stations were still an SUP under the planned shopping center. And so that is why Sheetz did not need an SUP for a gasoline sales establishment, and the Kroger did. And so again, we wanted to streamline that if we're going to call it gasoline sales establishments, then that's what we call it. And again, consolidating those uses where we had a variety of bed and breakfast lodging, bed and breakfast guest lodging, bed and breakfast establishments, things like that.
Thank you.
I guess my question, Tammy, in watching that Planning Commission meeting, there was a lot of conversation centered around SUPs. I guess my interpretation of it is, especially the first one that you read off about commercial recreation, there were 7 categories and now we have 1. And I guess that each one of those individual groups had their own SUPs listed on them individually. So did we just transfer all of those SUPs under the one name that we're consolidating?
Yes, so if
Okay.
it was an SUP in community conservation, then it stayed an SUP. If it was permitted, then it stayed permitted. Again, as Planning Commission and staff went through, there were some changes that were made to the matrix.
Okay, so nothing really was changed other than consolidating.
That's not,
So if
That's
you
not
look,
true?
You know, Planning Commission did make some
They
changes as
did
they went through
make
the
some
process.
changes.
there were additional changes through the process, yes.
Changes with the SUPs?
Not, so with the SUPs, Planning Commission, that's where those last 8 items, that's where they wanted the SUPs across the board. And if you remember, that is what fueled this joint meeting come April. They wanted town council's input on how they felt across the board. There were additional changes like requiring SUPs for car washes. They wanted to include SUPs for the use of boiler works because it was prohibited in the light industrial and heavy industrial. They wanted to add entertainment centers as an SUP in downtown, HRC, and PSC. Event facilities were added as an SUP in PMUD. Pharmacies were changed from an SUP in I-1 to being permitted. And then, again, with the forecast of the rezoning of Pinewood, anything that was in that commercial industrial was relocated into the I-1, into the light industrial, because we are going to be removing the CI as a zoning district, as it's only zoned in Pinewood.
So the purpose in us discussing this today is so that we'll be on the same page when we have our joint meeting.
That is correct.
Okay. Darren?
Ms. Butler, if I may, I think it should be noted that a lot of those SUPs that were just mentioned are kind of the easy button ones, right? Like RV parking, SUP, right? I think most of us acknowledge that RV parking in any of our neighborhoods is not really necessary perhaps, and shouldn't require an SUP to not have it. However, some of those SUP designations in different zoning regions or codes of our various codes have been moved from a state of not having an SUP option to a state of having an option for things such as density or setbacks, other things that affect the makeup of developments that we approve. So my observation was that while this started as a great project to clean up some messy things, I think back to defining townhomes and duplexes and, how we had to navigate that and the difficulty, that simple change, how much difficulty that was to ensure that we did that in a way that it didn't affect our zoning, right? So what was originally proposed was a definition, but then it had two different zoning applications to it, where if you titled your property in one way, well, then you could have X lot size, and if you titled your property another way, you could have Y lot size. Therefore, advantaging or disadvantaging one option over the other, or depending on how you look at it, if you built the one flavor, you could pack more into the same area as the other flavor. Now, I bring that up to say that what this does now is beyond cleaning up definitions and connecting dots that weren't connected. That is the bulk of it. That is the majority of it, perhaps. But there are also changes in there that, frankly, may be hard to identify, that put that SUP process across the board on all considerations and effectively nullifying all of our zoning, because if the SUP is an option, for instance, as we just did with the Greenwood Homes property, if zoning is changed to some category in which SUP is an option, then those caps that we put on things actually mean nothing, right? If we say that you can build 50 homes an acre, but you can SUP it, that actually means you can apply for 60 or 70 or 80 or 100. We wind up in situations like we wound up with Mallory Scott, where we're seeing an application for 11 or 1,200 homes in this case, and it's not a great example of an SUP process, but an example of changing our rules to suit the developer, right? So if we now give the developer the full access to all of our zoning book and every bit of it can be waived, why do we have a zoning book? We basically create everything as a case-by-case basis. Now, a developer, every one of those SUPs, a citizen or a developer, can apply for an exception to every one of those. So it exists in whatever category of zoning chapter that it's in, but it says at the end, here's the rules, except there are no rules because you can request a waiver of all of them. So effectively, and I understand a different perspective would be that the rules exist as guidelines, I suppose, but effectively, whatever they applied for, if we could have 5 homes per acre and they could apply for 50 and make us review it and make a decision. They can apply for whatever they want and force us to evaluate it, and that puts us in a situation where we're zoned for, just for numbers' sake, for 100 homes, and the developer says, well, I want to build 200, and we said no, and we say no, and then he says, well, I want to build 150, and we're like, yay, he lowered it 25%, but he only could ever build 100 to begin with. So if we had a rule, right? But instead we don't have a rule, and we have a waiver process for all of our rules, effectively nullifying the rules. Thank you.
So in other words, you'd like for us to do away with SUPs or waivers?
No, ma'am.
No?
No. I think there are many good applications of SUPs, and many of our citizens apply for lots of them. I think there's a lot of applications that aren't good. You know, we're charging a citizen $400 for an SUP. Perhaps some of those, the ones that we frequently approved, why should we have an SUP for those? But in our current state, that is a good SUP. A great example would be the use of Connex boxes in our town. That is the easiest way for a working man or woman to create a secure location for their tools and equipment as a Connex box. So we have a process to allow them to get there. That's great. Now, using that example, a citizen can apply $400 for one Connex box. The developer can apply $400 for 400 Connex boxes. There's no additional cost. There's no benefit to the town. We reap no reward from it. Whereas if we're giving this waiver for 400 Connex boxes and a citizen pays $400 for it and the developer gets 400% benefit and pays the same $400, I don't think that's appropriate either. But as far as, I would never across the board say every SUP is bad. I don't think that's the case. But I think that SUPs that nullify our rules and put this body and the Planning Commission in a position where we have to review submissions that are outside of our zoning because we made a waiver process, that therefore nullifies the rules because they can apply for anything they want. So I think that, and you know, the argument that it stifles creativity, I think is really the probably most valid argument, but I would question, one, we haven't seen that much creativity that I believe would have been stifled. I haven't seen a project that that couldn't exist on its own without an SUP. Case in point is the cottages there behind Royal Farms, right? We got that community down. He is moving forward, building that community within our zoning laws. He wouldn't be doing it if he wasn't going to make money. So I think that's a case in point of where we were successful, and then in Greenwood Homes we weren't successful. They got it, you know, all types of favors, and still all of those several SUPs that they got a broad application to their profit for $400, the same thing we're charging our citizens for a single-use SUP. So I think there's flaws across the board in the system, but I would certainly not go as far as to say that they should all go away. I think there are many SUPs that are useful.
So what is your recommendation to resolving it?
I actually find this presentation to be quite confusing. And with the difficulties that I've witnessed in this short time that I've been on the council, I believe I would be hard-pressed to vote for this solely because of the effects on growth, or potential effects on growth. But more germane to it is based on the operations that I've observed and been a part of. I think that I don't think that I could go through this document and feel confident that I can understand the unintended consequences well enough to make a decision.
If I may, and correct me if I'm wrong, the main issues that we're talking about are items 144 through 151 on this list that are the waivers of yard requirements, density, those sorts of things. Is that a fair assessment?
That is a fair assessment in that I have not evaluated 0 through 143
right.
For concerns.
But those are generally, and those were added, Planning Commission added those. Is that correct as well?
I would have to go back and look.
Applied them across the board, because I don't think that didn't come from staff.
You
so
know,
I just want to make sure that point is made, that staff didn't recommend those. Planning Commission added that to the matrix.
I don't think that. I don't think we're prepared to vote on this. I don't think this is being recommended.
No,
that this is the finished product. This is for us to discuss with the Planning Commission. This is
correct.
Not being recommended.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
By the Planning Commission at all.
That's the only reason this is here, is so council could be prepared for that conversation when it happens. But this is what came out of Planning Commission. It wasn't. Again, I just want to make sure it's clear. It's not that staff recommended this.
I just want to make sure that when we have the joint meeting that I understand the conversation.
Correct. I think that's the bulk of the issue, or from what Councilman Cutler is mentioning is those waivers that they added at the end, so a waiver of district size, floor area ratio, landscaping requirements, lot size requirements, building height, parking, density, and yard requirements. Those are the ones that I believe are the most heartburn, because the way they're set up now, Planning Commission that would be available to anybody in any district. And I think that's the concern. I don't know that it's all the other uses we consolidated. Because you're right, in those instances, someone could apply for an SUP for any of those in any district. So I think that's the bulk of the conversation that needs to happen with Planning Commission, is whether or not council finds that appropriate.
Can they do that now?
There are only certain districts you can apply for some of those in.
So why would Planning Commission make that change?
That's a Planning Commission question. I will, not to advocate a perspective.
Well, they have not recommended a change yet. This is here for us to review, so I will say that to start.
Right.
But there is, there's a few schools of thought in the Planning Commission. Okay, there's a couple of folks that think we are in a housing crisis and our Planning Commission is going to solve it. I think that's lofty. However, we see the price of land in this town, so it makes it quite difficult to solve the housing crisis in Smithfield. And then we have some sectors of thought of we should have the maximum flexibility possible in our zoning, and then we judge everything on a case-by-case basis is basically what that is. But why the principled reason I argue against that is because we're a nation and a county, a town, state of laws and regulations. So if we, if we spend all our time, really, why would we even look at all these pages except for the one that matters, right? So if we spend all our time writing and rewriting this code, but then we make it in the end, the code doesn't matter because you can just apply for whatever you want. So why do we do it anyway? So there's problem number one. Problem number two is that what history shows since this town began improving, developing, which has been a pretty short period of time, is that is exactly what happens. Is a developer says, okay, I can do one of two things. I can get the zoning changed, which is what happened at Mallory Scott, which probably shouldn't have happened. It was one thing to change it from community conservation to what was on the future land use map, but it's another thing to change it from community conservation to what was on the future land use map to something completely different that we didn't plan for, and then wind up in a situation where now they can build 1,100 homes or something, which was not possible, but exactly, but that's what they applied for. Even though they were only authorized 500 homes, we saw it in the Grange, we saw it in the cottages, we saw it at Mallory Scott, or I'm sorry, at the Greenwood Homes Project. Every developer that comes into town says, here's what your rules say, but here's what I want above your rules. And then we say, oh no, that sounds awful. And then they lower it to something that's still above what they could build by right. My argument is, if we want to have higher density, why don't we make a rule that makes sense that will shape that density rather than allowing the developers to come in and say, here's what I want to do, and then massaging it until they can get enough people to say yes. Because that's kind of what seems to be happening. But if we had a hard and fast rule that wasn't waivable, even if we wanted to, I wouldn't advocate for raising the density numbers, but some may. And if that was something that this body wanted to do, that would seem logical to change the rule, not make a meaningless rule that is waivable in every sense of the word. I don't see how, I just really don't see what the future benefit to this town is of making every rule that we have on zoning waivable.
But I guess it's all to what our interpretation of it is, because I don't look at it that way. I look at it as the Planning Commission still being in control to make a decision whether or not we want this 500 home subdivision, as opposed to if they're applying for a SUP and you can only build 300 homes. The town is still in control to make that determination.
Well,
so
I would disagree a little bit. So, and here's why. So, if the developer can do whatever they want, and then they get it to the point where the Planning Commission likes it, and then this body thinks we don't like the density, right?
Right.
And the proponents on there that do like a higher density get approved. That puts us in between a rock and a hard place, right? Because we're not giving our planning commission proper guidance and rules to follow. So what we're giving them basically is a blank check saying, if you like it, then go ahead and approve it through SUP, and then we'll decide if we like it or not. So we're not giving any rules. We're giving some guidelines that are waiverable, and we're going to get the same product we've been getting. So I don't think, I think what it actually does is puts us in a position where we have this body that we appoint as the elected officials, and we give them no guidance, right? We give them a blank check on all the rules, and then we have discord and disagreement when we go against their recommendation because, how could we not go against some of their recommendations because if there are no rules, right?
But there are rules.
Not if they're waiverable. If they're waiverable, then all the rules are written in
That's why I
sand.
ask for developers, you just want across the board that this is what we want, and we're not deviating outside of this.
So
Pretty much so.
I would say, as it relates to density in our neighborhood, in our future neighborhoods, that we should establish hard and fast rules, vice waiverable standards that are meaningless.
Okay, case in point, you called the names of developments. I really didn't want to do that. But if you go back and you look at Luda Acres, we approved 8 units for Joe. Joe was selling those products at $650 and up. We had another citizen that came along and wanted 8 units. And we were all up in the air about 2 more units. I don't understand the relevancy around that when he was also trying to build a more affordable product for people. I'm not sure what direction we're going in.
So, I think I recall that project well, and the Luder homes were quite expensive, and the 10 homes vice the 8, it wasn't like they were going to be, go from 650 to 350.
I
The
think
median
that they
home
were starting
prices.
350.
No, they were not. They were not. And that
Lester, can you
$400,
look at that?
$450 a square foot, and the size of those homes. Every developer has come through and said $400, $450 a square foot, and I would defer to the mayor on what he's seeing on that. But I don't think it's mathematically possible for those homes that were proposed there, 10 homes, to go for $350,000. I don't. But if that were the case, that would be great for the community, I suppose, perhaps.
Well, we voted that down, so he didn't have the opportunity to come back unless we make some changes with density. But to me, 2 more units did not really make a whole lot of difference.
So from that logic, though, Ms. Butler, if 2 more units doesn't make a whole lot of difference, if 10 doesn't make a whole lot of difference, then how is my argument not the same? If 2 units don't make a whole lot of difference, then 8's still okay, right?
But you voted against it.
I know. I think he should have built within the number of homes that the property was zoned for, and that what he was requesting was over that. But the logic of this 2 cents is not worth much, so it doesn't matter, then it doesn't matter to you any more than it doesn't matter to me. So I just can't really buy into 2 more homes doesn't really matter.
It doesn't. Plus, he was a more affordable home than Joe's. I don't really want to get into this. And the only other point I wanted to point out is when Joe purchased that property, it was just 1 parcel of land. When the other buyer was looking at density, the Children's Learning Center and the VA had been carved out, so it was less property. So to me personally, we weren't comparing apples to apples because it was less property. And it's no need to get into that. We see differences on density, and that's fine. And I think that the Planning Commission should have directions from us, but I also think that we need to be on one accord too.
Yeah, but so if you're going to compare apples and apples, though, they have to be apples and apples. That was a situation where the property was subsequently divided, a road was built through the property. So the property that was approved initially was not the same apple as the property that was brought before us after. So I think it's really, it does an injustice to the history of it to say that they were apples and apples, because they just really were not.
No, I agree with that. They were not apples to apples.
That's why he couldn't build that many houses, though.
Ms. Butler, I have a question, or comment, I should say. I'm going to go back to kind of big picture here. I kind of have an issue with some of those, every single zone, every single zoning area is waiverable. So let's not have any zoning areas, and then the whole thing is just SUPs. I mean, which, that doesn't make any sense either. We don't want to nickel and dime ourselves to death and get that involved in it. So we have specific areas that are zoned for certain things, and sometimes I think there are members of the Planning Commission or the public that has this idea, oh, that new council, they don't like any SUPs. Well, obviously that's not true, because we've approved many SUPs in the last year, some that make sense. Maybe there are others that, you know, that don't make sense. But I think that's where the issue comes in, is that if I don't think I like it, and the way Michael described it, it seems to be a very targeted area in what we're talking about. I don't think it's a good idea to have an SUP that is such a broad, paints such a broad brush over everything, because then our zoning means nothing. So I would have some concerns about that, and yes, there are SUPs that make sense, absolutely. I mean, Mrs. Clary has brought up several examples. I mean, we've all voted for different ones, but this, it's great to kind of clean things up, but I think and whether it's the Planning Commission or wherever we got to this point, I think it's couple steps too far.
It may be worth, when we get to that point where we're actually deciding what we want to do, again, being cognizant of the fact that those that are really the contentious issues that they go beyond the cleaning up, those are easily identified at the end of this list. And so I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If it's worth the effort of consolidating and condensing, I think we need to be open to, you know, those being something we can move on, and if there's not agreement on the other ones, being able to set those aside and discuss those, because I don't want to lose the effort that was done to consolidate and clean things up, if those are where the sticking point is.
Agreed.
Ms. Butler, I got a couple general comments, and they dovetail into the next topic as well, so just briefly. But the zoning, that's how we give policy guidance to the Planning Commission, much as we do the town staff. In the absence of policy guidance, then they do whatever they think is best, and usually that would probably work out really good, but it might not work out the way that the council wants it to. And I feel like any more than we would tell the town staff to take your rule books, and if you want a waiver in anything, it's now available, or just throw them out the door. I think that would be, a very poor choice. In the Planning Commission especially, this is why they're asking for guidance, is because in the absence of guidance, then they only have their own insights to go off of, and a good, preferred operating position for the Planning Commission Town Council would be, we drive policy and guidance to the Planning Commission so they recommend projects to us that we like, not so we wind up in a situation like we did with Greenwood Homes, where they recommended a product to us that we don't like, and we have to do the negotiating and work that really the Planning Commission should be doing, and presenting a product to us that we are going to want to approve rather than the alternative. So I think that's really important to understand. And finally, I would say, please think about, we do have to make the best decisions that are the best for the future, days, weeks, months, years, decades of this town. But we also have to listen to the citizens. And every avenue that they have to make feedback, whether it's online, whether it's, you look at the Grange and any negativity that we receive from that, but how many people said, don't put up no more houses? the survey to the county, the survey for the Tischler-Bice study, survey for our own comprehensive plan, every Smithfield Times survey, every public input that we get, 90% of it says, please stop the growth. And I would say a couple things. We have so many, the county has so many irons in the fire right now, we don't know what's coming to surround the town. It seems like a new development is showing up in the paper every day to get approved. We have how many homes approved to go in this town limits already? We have projects that are approved in and around the town, definitely around the town, that can be revived that are already approved. Our citizens have spoken. We have unknown growth rate. I still have no idea, other than my own calculations, of what the growth rate is for this town. We've done no studies about it. We've done no analysis of it. And we would make decisions that would allow us to change the density of the town without doing some research or study for it. My recommendation on this is if we want to do a wholesale revision of our zoning laws, we should probably hire some expertise to help us with it. We have our in-house expertise, but we are busy day to day. You see the bulk, A through H, if not more, A through J is under public buildings and welfare. And we have a handful of staff members in there. So if we want to do a wholesale revision of our zoning laws, we should bring in a broader breadth of experience and take a much better look at it and ensure that we understand 100% of what we're approving.
Any more discussion?
Yes, I'd just like to weigh in a little bit. When Darren first started talking, he hit sort of the point that I want to make. I found the listing and the changes almost decipherable. And that's, having said, that's not a negative. Let me go with overwhelming rather than to the point of consolidation and making things easier. You've done that a couple times for us since we've been council. That makes sense. And then we get to that end chunk, and I'm pretty much going to reiterate what Councilman said. The only way that I can read that last chunk is we don't need any rules. Somebody buys the property, they're going to do whatever they want. You've heard me on this on a lot of different things. Rule of law is a great phrase to use in that one. We have our codes. We need to stick with those codes as closely as possible. Opening up this window, broad brush all the way across SUP anything, in my mind defeats the whole purpose of having any codes at all. And again, to Darren's last point, if we are so conflicted about what our codes are, then we do need to study them and make some changes. I'm not that conflicted. I believe what is in place is workable. It has been workable for a long time. And to the final issue kind of floating around out there, I understand why, on occasion, Planning Commission feels like they are almost forced to make policy when that is not their job. Policy is our job, and making good, clear policy and then directing them how to best enact that policy. We all need to do a better job with that, but as far as any acquiescence or agreeing with these widespread 100% opposed, and would like to, I'm making this statement publicly so it's out there for Planning Commission and everybody else to hear before they next meet, because it would be really helpful if they revisit this document before our joint meeting in April. Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? Tammy, when is the joint meeting scheduled for?
April 22nd
April
at
22nd.
6 p.m. It is a Wednesday.
Okay. If there are no more discussions, we'll be back here on April the 22nd at 6 p.m. The next item is G, discussion item, future land use map.
Yes, thank you. Per Mr. Cutler's request, we've included the future land use map on the agenda for discussion.
Ms. Butler, if I may, I've opened some discussion on that. So I requested the future land use map be added. This map is the billboard that says build here. And the reason I think this is important, as we just discussed, the number of homes already going in, we have growth and we know it's coming. And you know, we didn't run on no growth, we ran on managed growth. So we have to have the tools to manage the growth. But if we have a billboard that says, come here and build here, then that's how we wound up with the Greenwood Homes proposal. You know, that wasn't something like the Napolitano property where he had owned it for 20 years. You know, that moved a little faster than that. But really, what I'd like to say, we know we can't do a moratorium, but if you follow these last several weeks as the county has gotten application after application, I think that it would be wise on us to dim the billboard a little bit and let some of this growth play out. We know some things aren't going to be built. All neighborhoods aren't going to necessarily fill out, you know, in 5 years, 10 years, or whatever. However, it is happening, and it's happening more rapidly. I mean, we see phase A of Mallory Point is almost complete, and they're trying to top the roads. So the growth is happening, and I just think that it's not a no to growth. It's we have approved a lot of growth. We're being surrounded by growth. It may be just time to slow down and let some of that catch up. Let our infrastructure building catch up. Let the road improvements that the developers have agreed to do because of the homes they're building, let those catch up and get done. And then we'll have a better idea. But without any analysis of anything, we have no future forecast of any of our growth or what the effect is going to be or how it's going to affect our tax rate. The future land use map is where we should start by dimming that billboard. And I would go as far as to say that in the large swaths of undeveloped land, such as the gray block along the bypass there, or now the red block that we own, that I'm gonna stop calling it the Grange and call it something else. Smithfield's new property, because it's not the Grange and is never going to be now. But that property should certainly go to public or semi-public use or something of that nature. But all these other swaths of undeveloped land that are on this map, for us to pause or slow down what's happening, we need to make our future land use map reflect our priorities. And if our priorities are growth, then it's probably fine. But even then, maybe we need to reassess what they are because of how Mallory Scott Farms went down. So that's a case in point that I guess that was our first big development. We didn't even have our future land use map correct for what went there. So I would be a proponent of changing much of this to conservation, even expanding environmental conservation in places, public and semi-public use, and take a stand to try to not stop growth, but slow it down a little bit and let some of it catch up about it. And then finally, the last thing I'll say is, as it relates to affordable housing, we have seen that our tools to deal with that are very limited. Property in this town is very expensive. So I don't think we can look to, much like saying, if we could got 10 homes into the historic district for $350,000, well, that would be 10 homes, and 10 $350,000 homes may work out well for our citizens. But if we think we're relying on a developer to come in here and offer a development that's going to house our police officers and school teachers, I think we're going to be sorely disappointed because it doesn't appear to be possible without significantly expanding our density. And we know we even had an offer on the Grange property to put affordable Section 8 housing on it, and we know that's not the desire either. So without some type of government-led effort at affordable or workforce housing or something like that, I think that we're just going to be disappointed if we wait, hoping a developer shows up with it. So we should restrict our future land use map. Thank you.
Tammy, do you have any response to that?
It's your town. Whatever town council ultimately decides for that future land use map, it's under your control.
Well, maybe-
Mrs. Butler, I just have one specific comment about the future land use map, and this has bothered me for a long time. And I agree with many things that Darren brought up, but the one very specific area that I am concerned about is, and on your map, if you're looking on your map, is the red area on West Main Street where it's the Jersey Park neighborhood, it's Lakeside neighborhood. That is, on the future land use map, is listed as commercial mixed use. That is awful. I'm just going to say it plain and simple. These are neighborhoods, long time neighborhoods. Families have grown for generations, and to suddenly say, or to, as Darren puts it, advertise it to the world that this is commercial mixed use, absolutely not. I think we need to protect these neighborhoods. And when we're talking about affordable housing, these houses are affordable. And compared to many neighborhoods in Smithfield that are not. And are there improvements? Absolutely. I mean, every neighborhood has areas that need to be improved, but this area specifically needs to be protected because it's a historic part of town, and I think it is appalling to me that it's listed as commercial mixed use on the future land use map.
I think Charles Bryant mentioned that to you before, Tammy. What was the response to that?
So I will tell you that area is zoned downtown neighborhood residential, which is why I think it got categorized as the commercial mixed use. We would like to update our future land use map where it's more in line with our zoning designations.
Okay.
Because I mean, if you look down at the key, you have neighborhood residential, historic district downtown mixed use, historic district residential, commercial mixed use, corridor mixed use, residential mixed use, parks and rec, public conservation, and then our flex and heavy industrial. And so again, we would envision that corridor mixed use, that really should align with our entrance corridor overlay, because that would be corridor mixed use, which would be the front of that, the fronting parcels of that Main Street, West Main Street, with the residential behind it. So kind of creating more of a corridor.
I understand that, but even along the main street there, along West Main Street, there are houses in there. I mean, there are pockets of commercial, and that's okay. That obviously services the residents that are there, and as well, that's a busy road, people passing through. But I think we need to be very, very careful with, like I said, I think we need to help protect that area in a zoning format, whether it's future land use map or however that's done. But this has bothered me for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Ellen. Bill?
Thank you. Mary Ann Ellen, I've talked about this from way back. And although it would have been three of us talking about it, so it couldn't possibly have happened, Darren might have been there also. And I remember back in the day, this was one of the things we wanted to talk about on day one. Very, very concerned about that area being anything but residential, if not on the road, so to Tammy's point, recarve or redesign. But those areas that are not facing that road need to be protected. Love Darren's description. If I'm a builder and I see all these spots where I can build and I can come in, and Smithfield's telling me I can build here, they're going to come and do that. We need to make sure that what we're telling the public and future developers, not here, not in these places. This is a residential area. It's a historical residential area. It moves us towards the more rural area out. and we need to rezone that yesterday.
Just so we make sure we're using the right words, it's zoned residential,
Right.
I'm sorry.
redesignated
On
on
the
the
floor.
land use
On
map,
the land
correct?
use
Right.
map, Right.
Redesignate, thank you.
Okay.
Why is it redesignated?
Well, no, because if you want your future land use map to say residential, when we redo this map, we just need to redesignate it as residential. I mean, the zoning will stay the same.
Right.
It's just what it's forecasted to be in the future should reflect what's actually going to be there.
So the town is forecasting in the future that it'll be commercial mixed use.
At one point in time, there was a discussion, when this land use map was done in 2021, it was done that way for some reason. And to Tammy's point, it may have been based off what the underlying zoning is right now that does allow for some commercial in it. But to Tammy's point earlier, I agree. I think we need to redo these classifications to make them more reflective of the zonings and kind of less broad. But the zoning ultimately is what allows or doesn't allow the use on the ground. This is what, at the time, you know, the entities thought the future uses in these areas may be. And it, you know, I clearly agree. I don't think that's what
No,
that'll
it's
be.
just not appropriate.
So we should change that when we redo them. Land use
So-
map.
Okay, just real quick.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So we're talking about where Middle Street goes back into that
Correct.
neighborhood,
Yes.
which is currently in the wrong color.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Correct.
And Ms. Butler,
Oh, sorry.
if I may, a key distinction, right? So our zoning map is what is the official approved, you know, we have public hearings every time we change it. The future land use map is a little more confusing because it would be interesting to know how many people are familiar that a future land use map exists. Zoning map, I think, is pretty common knowledge for most folks. And you look at our zoning map, and the Greenwood Homes Project property was a good example, that had been zoned as community conservation for years and years and years, and something else on the future land use map. And, you know, supposedly that was from some defaulted thing. I'm not sure. I tend to respect that previous councils are the same as us, and they made well thought out decisions, not defaults. But it's important because it is the developer's tool. If you talk to Greenwood Homes, I specifically talked to him. He said the only reason I applied for that is because that's what it said. And I said to him, you can't fault that. But if we in fact want to, those of us that just got elected and ran on managing growth, want to actually do something about managing growth, the zoning and the future land use map are the most important tools at our disposal.
Any more discussion on the future land use map? If not, we'll have a joint discussion on April the 22nd. Discussion item, short-term rentals. Michael?
We had a presentation on this at one of our previous meetings, and we were asked to put it back on here to see if there was any discussion about any changes council wanted us to start working on for the ordinance, or if, as it exists, sufficient.
Bill?
Thanks. I'll go first. I think where we are is fine, and we would still consider them case by case.
Any other opinion?
I agree.
Yeah, I would agree with Bill.
How did we get here? I don't know.
Well, council had asked some research to be done on caps, on limits, on how many is too many, what are other localities doing. So tourism took that on and did an analysis, looking at some other localities that kind of matched or mirrored us, and brought that research back. And so it was a look at what are other localities doing, specifically around caps and thresholds of how much is too much.
So based on that, we're okay where we are?
Yes, that's what it sounds like.
Okay. And so this doesn't need to go anywhere?
No, ma'am.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're good.
I is Town Council Policy and Procedures Manual. I think that this was a carryover from last month. And so Michael, or who wants to start that
Again,
discussion?
this is another one of those that council needs to have some discussion around this document and what you want in it, and then we'll go from there. We gave you a starting point that was a conglomeration of some other localities. But again, this is ultimately going to be council's document, and you guys need to have the conversation around what you want.
May I interject?
Of course.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
might we have a 5-minute break before we go into a discussion of the policy and procedures manual?
We'll take a 5-minute recess.
No, I'd love, you just, yeah, not you. I've been here since 2:30. He beat me.
Plus-hour committee meeting. Loaded up.
Let's focus on what we can do, because I told Mike, I said, man, we're gonna have a long meeting. He said, "You go through 140 and be done with it, then let's take those off at 6 o'clock before we get out of here."
You missed it by an hour.
And again, I want to make sure
I may wait everybody to get back, then I go out that door.
planning commission wants it. That's why I keep bringing it up.
Tammy, that was a very, very diplomatic move on your part. Smart.
Anything that was highlighted was something that he saw that should be. And so like community building, stuff like that. Yes, AR, I could see that. You know, so there's a handful here and there that really do help the planning commission fund and try to get.
Okay.
clip on it. You can just keep it like that. Yeah, it's what we were required to do and get back to you or the honorable mayor. You,
Yeah, where's that? Did I get that file also? What's up, Mike?
Everybody here?
Michael.
There we go.
How you doing, Chris?
I forgot he was even here.
Okay, we'll resume our Public Buildings and Welfare Committee. Mrs. Butler.
We're down to I. So Michael, had you kind of opened that up for us? So it's open for discussion.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm happy to start as well.
Okay.
Because I think I drove this being brought back, and I want to say I've kind of reevaluated my position on that, because it just doesn't seem like the only point of this document is to make rules for this body. And I think we identified in our last meeting that we didn't want any rules, and I think we identified in the meeting where this was first presented that this was just going to be approved without any discussion, meaning that it just really has no meaning, right? I appreciate the work and effort that went into it, but if it's just making some rules for rules' sake and we're not going to actually, put some meaningful rules, like we had an opportunity, we could have put rules in there for taking minutes in closed session. And instead we took a brash decision, or some of us did, to work together and make that go away. Not informing the others, but this was the opportunity to make rules for everybody that were consistent for everybody that we could all work together on. And it really just seems like there's no desire to do that. So I think it would probably be easier for us to just think this was maybe a good idea, but not good enough, and move on.
Mary Ellen.
Since you brought up the closed session thing, I'm going to bring it up now, because I kind of felt at the last meeting like it was a lose-lose vote. Like I wasn't really happy with either one. So it doesn't seem like it has to be an all or nothing. Either we record them or we do nothing. I still move that we should, and this is in this policy procedure manual, I think there's nothing wrong with having a summary notes at the end of a closed session that stays with the closed session topic, but I think it is important for us to have some sort of documentation about what we talked about. It doesn't matter, this person said this and that person said that. What matters is the end result. And 9 times out of 10, whatever issue we've dealt with in closed session, and the Grange is a perfect example, it comes out that a decision is made. Now, people can argue about the process and that, I get that. However, that's where we see the vote. There are other closed sessions that we've had that eventually we have to vote on that issue. But it does help us when we have notes, and Michael is there as the town manager, to come up with a 2-sentence summary of what was discussed. The council discussed this. They decided we're going to do X, Y, Z. That's it. We don't need, like I said, it doesn't matter. This person said that, and that person said something else, and the discussion back and forth. So that's why I wasn't in favor of recording it either. I don't think that's necessary. What's important is the outcome, and that we have some sort of record of what a very short record of what was discussed, not a transcript or anything like that. So I still maintain that I think that's a good idea, and I would prefer that that is put in this policy and procedures manual if we're going to make any changes. The bulk of the document is fine. It's kind of what we do anyway. I mean, it just puts it in writing, but that is one particular item that I would really like us to come to an agreement and a compromise on. Thank you.
Bill?
Yeah. Darren, your remarks kind of caught me off guard. See,
Should have been me last week.
yeah, I was ready last week.
Yeah, well, would have been nice if you'd include the rest of us in.
You can go back and look at it. The Policies and Procedures Manual is an important document. And it's, I don't know, almost disingenuous to say that we want rules and regulations to guide our zoning codes, but not our own behavior. I don't know how many other folks went through it, but I went through it word by word and honored your effort by going through and making specific remarks about each one of those things. But I certainly will acquiesce to your suggestion if nobody else is interested in talking about this or highlighting the things that are in place. It, might be a waste of time, but I do agree with Darren. If we're suggesting that it's a waste of time, then we need to get the mirror out. So.
Yeah, if I could, bureaucracy for bureaucracy's sake is it just never really serves any purpose. So unless, what we have is an example of something that can be customized to fit us, but I don't think we have something that's worthy of approving like we were about to do, and just have a pretty meaningless document, or a document that we don't really know what the meaning is.
Are you finished, Bill?
Is this still you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to get the floor again. Is it?
What do you mean?
I'm
it's
asking
still
you.
me?
It's on our
It's
committee.
still under your committee. So.
Public buildings. Well, that's where it is.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying. I was just trying to see who I was supposed to say, may I keep talking? Again, agree with the basic statement there. The only way this is important is if we make it important. And I guess where I was last meeting and tonight is that it's not important unless we take the time to go through almost page by page. Some pages fly more quickly than others, but if there are points here that are bothersome, as Michael has pointed out, this is our document, and we should get rid of them. If there are things that need to be emphasized, they should be emphasized. Several of us at the table said when it first came out, oh gosh, this is what we needed when we were elected. And not to give it any attention seems to, call the lie. So I really don't know what the next step would be based on those comments, but I think there's a lot of good in here. I think there's some things that aren't so good, but I definitely think that we should be aware of our own rules and regulations and be willing to discuss them and then enforce them. And the quick side kick to that is a problem that we have in lots of our areas. We do a lot of stuff, don't follow it up. We have a lot of things in place where if somebody or something goes off the track, there is no teeth or enforcement. It's just the way it is, and I've never been comfortable with that, and was looking at this as a way to strengthen both our purpose and resolve and our performance.
I have a suggestion, Ms. Butler. Perhaps this and zoning reform could be our two main topics for a retreat this fall. I think Vice Mayor is correct that, a line by line, page by page review, and the only, a special meeting or something, a work session or something of that nature, or maybe we do it in a retreat and get some professional to help us, especially with the zoning part. if we're gonna start addressing changes to density, I mean, I think we owe it to get some, professional research done on that. And I think Ms. Clary is working on budget for the planning department staff to have those tools in the future, so the planning commission could initiate those types of things. But as far as this goes, I do still kind of feel like without a lot of effort, it's an extraneous document, so we could kill it now. But if we're really going to try, maybe the retreat is a good place to do it.
Jeff?
Yeah. I'm at the point now where I like this document. When I got on, I was looking for like a corporate code of conduct at my very first retreat. This incorporates things like that, and I think that having a document like this is beneficial. I also think that this is a fluid document, and it can be massaged as we go forward. I think if you're looking for 7 different opinions on this, it's going to take forever because he's going to like something that I don't like, and she's going to want something stricken that I think is absolutely important in here. So I don't know where I don't know where to go with it. I mean, fortunately, I can kind of sit back and say, you guys tell me where you want to go with it. Here's my opinion. I think it is a valuable document. I am okay with kind of where it is. No, it's not perfect. And yeah, there are probably maybe some things that need to be worded a little differently or maybe changed. But I think we need something like this. And does it have a lot of teeth? The way it stands, I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I think it's a good starting point. I don't think it's going to be harmful to enact this, even if we're not really going to use it, because I think we need it. I think the public needs it. It's my 2 cents on it.
Steve?
No, I said pretty much the exact same thing Jeff did when we first came out with it. I said I thought the document obviously had withstood the test of a number of different jurisdictions that had utilized it. I also made the comment, I remember specifically, that it is a fluid document. Be massaged, can be looked at, and that's how things like this are formulated. So I do think it is somewhat important.
I basically agree the same thing. I am surprised that some of us feel now that it's not important. I did call Michael about a couple of things in here that were contradictory, and one of them was in Darren's email that he sent us about the 3 minutes and the 5 minutes. I think that was a typo error. We weren't looking to change anything. We just had not changed it back to 5 minutes. And I also had another question, and Michael, I did not go back and look at the charter. I didn't have time to do that. That was one thing that I questioned. The appointment that we make from town council to planning, it doesn't state in here, and I kind of assume that that's not a non-voting appointment, but that's not how we're doing it. And Michael did say that that is defined more so in the charter, and I think that this needs to be updated to be the same as that. Because, one thing that stood out to me, because I know that, I don't know if it was the second meeting, Darren, or when it was, we appointed you to planning, and then one meeting you were going to be absent, and you said that Bill would fill in, and I remember somebody saying he can't do that. But based on this policy and procedure, it does work that way. But Michael did tell me that that was one of the things that were in the charter that were a little bit different. So I like it. It's not going to define every rule or every law that we want to see, but I think it's a great guideline to have something that we can share with new town council people as they come in, because I know Michael spent some time with you all when you were elected to meet staff and find out what the different departments do. So I think that this is one of the things that if there are any additional questions or for things that we need to point out, that it can be done then. But, you know, my question is, you know, we have accountability for attending meetings, and if we don't meet that if we exceed that threshold, then somebody needs to say something. Or if I'm out of character and it stretches beyond the code of ethics, you know, who's going to enforce that? You know, we can't just sweep it under the rug and don't observe that. Then somebody's going to have to be responsible for correcting us. And I know a lot of times we don't like conflict, but that's the only way it's going to get resolved. So I'm inclined to agree with this, and you know, I don't know if we need to discuss every line, every number. So if there are any questions, what I tried to do when I went back to study it, I went back and looked at the questions that Darren had in reference to this policy and procedure. And I'm surprised that we're still discussing closed sessions to record, to take minutes, or not to take minutes. And Darren, that goes back to your comment when we first went into closed session today. You said that you were taking your recording device. Is that something that you talked with the attorney after the fact? Because I'm confused there about closed sessions.
No, ma'am. The attorney and it actually the attorney reiterated, I should say, but in the FOIA law, there's no restriction. Any town council member can take notes of any sort that they would like in the meeting. So, and the attorney most recently, I think, validated that.
Chris, I thought we voted last time not to take minutes. What did we vote on? Isn't that what we voted for, not to take minutes or recording?
Council voted that the town will not record or take minutes.
Oh my God, I didn't realize we were getting that specific.
Right, I mean, so
okay,
we-
so the town, so the
Right.
clerk won't be there, or you won't be taking minutes.
Correct.
But if I decide to go in closed session, that I can take minutes and record myself.
There's nothing that prevents you from taking notes during the meeting. I mean, that's 100% an inaccurate statement. Now, I don't know legally if you can prevent, that's an attorney question, but I don't think.
He's right there. He's
Yeah.
ask him. He's right there.
Yeah, I
Ask
was
him
gonna
a
say,
question.
I don't know if.
Chris, speak up, please. Excuse me.
Wake up.
I'm here, you know, I've got a note, you know, that's a interesting issue. Handwritten notes, you know, I think are one thing, and recordings another. I think Councilman Cutler is, you know, correct in some ways that we talked about it being, you know, generally FOIA is geared toward transparency. With that said, the notes I have to myself coming out of this meeting, one of them is, you know, whether those, just because they're not prepared by town staff, they're prepared by council members, whether they're still public records. If a council member takes notes or makes a recording during closed session, you know, what I need to research, this is a matter of first impression for me, whether that still creates the same problems that we were discussing with town-created notes and recordings, which is they're subject to the Public Records Retention Act, and they could potentially be disclosed inadvertently. So I'll have to look at that and report back. It's a new issue to me. I have not opined on that because I think we did not discuss that last time, the distinction between town-created notes and recordings and council member created notes and recordings. I will look into that and give you an opinion.
Ms. Butler, may I follow up with the counselor?
Yes.
And you may need to pull the tape on the motion that I made. I didn't make any specificity about whether the town would be making the recommendation. Anyway, I said they will not be recorded. I did not specify. I said specifically that they won't be recorded or they won't be, no transcript be made of the discussion, if my memory serves me correctly. Because I wanted it across the board, Because let's be real, I've been called sneaky and all this other stuff by the media and everything else, you know, about what I did and how the motion went through there. But the bottom line was, I believe very, very strongly, after working for 3 governors, running a commission that's appointed by the governor, and had many closed sessions that dealt with $100 projects to multi-million-dollar projects. We never, ever kept any record of the closed session. I believe specifically in the sanctity of a closed session, and that's where I'm coming from. No more, no less. There's no hidden agenda in my decision as to what I believe. But I believe that we as elected folks, when you have a specific law that says you can do that, and when you have attorneys that tell you that the 80 different jurisdictions they work for, nobody keeps them, there must be some rationale behind it. So Leslie, if you could pull that and check to see what that motion was, and then maybe get it to the council, get it to the attorney, and then he can figure out exactly whether it's public record or not.
Yes, sir.
That, if I can,
Oh, yeah,
she can do that. That's where I'm coming from, and I think it's important that I say that. It's not, I've said enough.
Ms. Butler,
Thank you.
Butler.
can we get back to the thing at hand about the policy and procedure manual? I don't think we need to debate what's in this right now. I think an overall view of most people's opinion is that we do need this. I held the paper up myself when I first saw it. I read every word of this, and I thought it was an excellent document. Michael did a great job on it, but I think we need to address the policy and procedure manual, where we want to go, and not get into the weeds of what we want to take or put back in there at this time.
It does cover closed session.
I know it.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
The only thing and this is, no, go ahead, I'm on it.
I mean, how could you not make a policy and procedures manual and not go into the weeds? That just does not make any sense. If your policy and procedure is going to be very general, i.e. no weeds, then it's not policies or procedures. Policies and procedures define the weeds because the devil's in the details. And to think that this is no slight to you, Mr. Stallings, but you absolutely created a beautiful document, but it's not the document for this town council. It's the document for whatever town council you got it from. And I mean, I think it would be pretty poor form to adopt somebody else's rules and not even go through those rules together and say, that's good enough. I mean, it is the details, policies and procedures.
Ms. Butler.
Bill?
Thank you. Again, generally in agreement, maybe not page by page, that didn't seem to ring too well with everybody, but there are certain places in here that are serious and significant. I'm just going to give you one example. Page 19, number 11. I'll read you the entire thing as written. Council's norm and procedures. To ensure due process and fairness to all interested parties, council members shall use a discussion period after a public hearing to express their views on a matter pending before the council. The very next sentence says, council members shall refrain from signing petitions, taking personal stands, or voicing opposition or support, whether in writing or verbally, or otherwise indicating their views on matters on which the council is expected to consider and take action. Those two sentences are an exact contradiction of each other. The second sentence actually denies our attempt at transparency and truth, and absolutely needs to be stricken, because we're either here to share our opinions and our justifications and why we're voting one way or the other, or we're not. Yeah. And there are a number of places through there where we as a group can look at them and say, no, this doesn't make any sense, because if we don't do it that way, we're just getting it typed, it's going on a shelf somewhere, and some unlucky knuckleheads down the road are going to be operating. One of them's going to read this and, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing that. So anyway, there are points
like this at all.
Right.
That's
exactly. Thank you, Ms. Butler.
Yeah, and the caveat I'll add is while it did come from the city of Williamsburg and the town of Percyville, I did go through and make sure it was in compliance with our state code, our town code, our charter. There are things like that where I understand what they were trying to say is you shouldn't take a position before a public hearing. The last sentence definitely doesn't make that feel great. So things like that we need to wordsmith, let's do it. Ms. Butler mentioned, that section about like appointed folks being able to appoint alternates. We added the language when allowed. So that way, if there's some bylaws, say for example, planning commission bylaws don't allow alternatives. So that way those documents can still have effect. So we did ensure that it is in compliance with what we have on the books today. There are places, of course, where it will go further than what we have on the books. But it's important, and I would love to be able to have this document to give to every newly elected official and say, here's how we operate.
May I respond just to that?
Of course.
Classroom teacher, words have meaning.
Yes.
Comma, if allowed or when allowed, has no meaning in a situation like this, because we're going to have to go find if it's allowed or when it's allowed, and if it's not in this document. If we're going to have something like that, period, and the next sentence is whatever the action is.
Got to have a footnote.
Got to have a footnote, something. But just to say, when allowed, we may as well not even write.
Yeah, maybe it should say when allowed by the organization's bylaws, because we may appoint somebody to a commission that we don't know what their bylaws.
When allowed in the bylaws.
Right, so we
There's a
can
specific
most definitely
place.
wordsmith those things.
Anyway, just one last follow-up for me, then I would agree with Darren, a work session, a half work session or something where we take the time and basically go through it, if not word by word, certainly concept by concept, so that we know what we are endorsing and sending out into the future as well.
Okay, so would you all like for the town manager to schedule a separate meeting for that? Or Darren suggested maybe a fall retreat, or how do you want to handle that?
I guess the big question is there a general appetite for going a little bit more in depth and trying to produce a document that has both impact and meaning?
Yeah, just a quick comment on it. I mean, to the points that it's a good document like it is, I think if you want to change it and call it town council guidelines, it's a good document like it is. And then we could approve it, and it becomes a great thing to hand to a newly elected leader and knows that it's it needs a few corrections, sure, but it kind of is loose, it's a little loose. But to call it policies and procedures, I think we got to pick one or the other routes.
One suggestion I might have is so just by way of a general kind of summary of Virginia law on rules of order, policies, procedures, bylaws, whatever you want to call them. They are only for the governing body's benefit. They don't create individual third-party claims or rights of action. But I think it might be helpful, from what I'm hearing in this discussion, to put in a provision directly on that, and saying explicitly, in the introduction, it might make sense to say these are for the benefit of town council only. They don't create, third-party claims, and that might clarify that these are, in many ways, guidelines, and that they are only for the benefit of town council, and that they don't give rise to any kind of legal action if they aren't followed. And that is a restatement of Virginia law. That's not new law, but it might not be something that's clear to the public when they review these. Just something to consider.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. Great recommendation. And again, let me go back to words have meaning. I'm completely okay with Darren's last suggestion. If this is a guideline for town council behavior, the general tone and the general suggestions and the ideas contained in here are valuable, readable, but definitely overly general for policy and procedures. And if that's something that we would want to address later, which I think we would need to do, then I would be completely agreeable with a name change and moving forward to addressing the other policies and procedures in a more concrete, serious fashion.
Mr. Vice Mayor, would that also include the preface page or statement page?
Yes.
That,
Absolutely.
I agree. I agree.
One other suggestion, and that was just simply, and I emailed Michael just earlier this meeting about this. You'll notice at the end of the policy procedures, there's an appendix with an electronic meeting policy. That's also something that's required under the Virginia Code for you to be able to participate remotely in a meeting or to conduct all virtual meetings during a state of emergency. The one that's in the policy is fine, but it just so happens that I recently prepared an electronic meeting policy for the Planning Commission earlier this year. And just for kind of internal synergy, I think it would make sense for the Planning Commission and Town Council to have the same electronic meeting policy. So I've sent over to Michael the PC's electronic meeting policy, which they adopted earlier this year, and would suggest maybe just substituting that for the one that's currently in the draft as an appendix. And that way both bodies would use the same policy. They provide for the same thing, which is drawn straight from the state code. They're just worded slightly differently.
So are we accepting this document with a name change? I'm only looking at you, Michael.
I know.
I need to.
It
I think that's the
has my
consensus.
support,
I think
based
that's
on
the
what we just talked
consensus.
about, and the name change and the adoption, it will have my support.
Okay.
Yeah, I think a few administrative corrections, the 3-minute part.
Right, and those things were, again, 100% council's prerogative. If you want 3.5, it was what was in here, and I had highlighted it specifically for us to discuss. So I will make sure that goes to 5 to reflect what we're doing.
Some people haven't said hello before a minute's up, so it's kind of.
Right. Why you're looking at me? I just
No,
want my
I'm
5
not.
minutes
I
perfect.
just-
And Michael, you still want any suggestions forwarded to you for a final drafting?
I do, and the caveat I'll say is that if I get a suggestion, what that does is it
I'm
puts
talking
me.
about like the example that I gave.
Yes, those by all means. I will call those out because if I get a suggestion, everybody's got to be okay with it. I can't just make a change and not call it out and you guys have a discussion on it if it's substantial.
That's what I'm talking about.
So if it's typos, little things like that, by all means, we can change those. But if it changes something in here, you guys have to agree to that before I'll change it.
Well, and the only way that we can agree with that is to do what Darren says, to go page by page.
Well,
But if we're just going to make it guidelines,
but the reality is even if it's guidelines, it's still gonna govern how we operate. I mean, there's no point in having guidelines if you're not gonna follow them. So, I mean, whatever you call it, frankly, to me, it's inconsequential because it's still going to be the governing document for how you operate. So, I mean, to your point, it's important, and I think you guys need to be okay with everything in here, and it needs to be your document. Just because I pulled it from somewhere and thought it sounded good doesn't mean that it's how you want to operate.
Plus, Michael does not want to be the arbiter.
All right, and you guys are responsible for governing yourselves. Ms. Butler, you asked who governs it. You guys do. If you find somebody else in your colleagues is in violation of it, it's incumbent upon council to govern yourselves.
I'll let the mayor know.
Right, I mean, ultimately, it ultimately falls to the mayor, and that's what it says in this document, is it ultimately falls to council and the mayor to govern yourselves.
Okay, so
Nobody
my
else is in a
question
position to
is,
do that.
Do we want to get together and go over this document page by page? Or are we okay with Michael changing it to guidelines?
I think, I'd like to make a recommendation, if you will, let me. I would like to see us have anything back to Michael by May April the 6th.
Mayor Smith, that's what we should have done.
What we already did, no, we
I know,
already
and I
did
gave
that
y'all the
once.
deadline, and it never was met. So I'll give you another one. This would be the third one now. So, and that way, Michael can make the little changes to whatever needs to be made, and any contradictions. I had talked to Michael about this. Certain things were in there that were just spelled or what have you. But that way, we can go ahead and have this as a working document. If we see it, it can be changed. We know it can be at any point in time. Then we can move forward with that. We can what if forever, and think we've got ourselves covered for everything. I've read a lot of contracts in my construction life, and sooner or later somebody's gonna get screwed.
So we're gonna relook at it at the
I'm
next
gonna put it to you the truth. That's how it is. I mean, some word or form of fashion was not put in the contract, and all of a sudden it becomes somebody's responsibility. Not because they didn't want it in there, it just got into the weeds so deep. So when you start thinking about what happens if this happens, or this happens? I can't predict what's gonna happen a year from now, 2 years from now. A new council may come in here and scrap the whole thing. So I'd like to see us have the reports back to Michael so he can have some document for our next council meeting. Any changes that need to be made that we've discussed tonight.
Next council meeting?
Yes.
Or next committee meeting?
Next council meeting,
Council meeting?
Yes.
In April?
yes.
No.
You said April.
April 6th. Next week?
April 6th.
Okay, so we're gonna adopt this document at the town council meeting.
It'll be,
I would argue if there's substantial changes, you're not,
no, right.
because then we'll be back exactly where we are now.
So we're gonna be discussing this at council meeting. Okay.
That's what it sounds like.
That gives you two,
Only maybe. Is there
Yeah.
anybody here who sees submitting some major substantive change?
I'm not sending anything, so
Yeah, there's one.
I'm good.
yeah.
You don't have to worry about me.
So we'll move this on to town council meeting on the 7th
It'll be under old
to
business.
determine whether or not we're gonna accept it or just for discussion.
He should be able to give you everything with the feedback on Monday, the 6th.
Okay. All right, Mike.
And then
You
we'll
got
have it,
that?
to look at whether we want to vote on it or not vote on it, or send it
To the
back
town
somewhere else.
council. All right. Do we want to do the strategic plan? It's on the agenda. The next item on our agenda is the strategic plan.
I'll answer your question.
You-
Given the fact that it's almost 7 o'clock, and that discussion of the strategic plan should involve significant input
Yeah,
And clear mind.
and clear minds, I would like to suggest that we postpone our discussion of
until
the
next committee
strategic
meeting.
plan to the next committee meeting.
If I may, council just recently actually adopted this strategic plan. It's not that old. Where it came from was a request to have a list of priorities, and in theory, that's what this document should be. You are scheduled to at least 2 years, review that document. If we want to do a deep dive on that, we should probably set aside a significant amount of time to do that. And we had a facilitated discussion last time to go through the entire process. So if you want to actually review the strategic plan and revise it, then I would suggest we do that in a dedicated session for that. And that it typically is at the beginning of the year or something. If we want to just look and, make sure the priorities are right, again, we did that not long, 6 months
Yeah, we
ago
just
is when we
did that.
adopted this.
Yeah, we adopted the strategic. To answer your question directly,
Right.
I think that we do need an in-depth
Okay.
sooner than
Yes.
later. And that goes back to what I brought up a couple months ago. There's a difference between the strategic plan and two-year goal setting.
Yes.
And setting timetables and follow-ups, which I contend that we have not done a good enough job of.
I will agree with that.
So we need to have an in-depth to understand what our strategic plan is, but also at the same time, for this council to determine the 4 or 5 things it wants to accomplish in the next 2, 3 years, whatever we decide. Set the timetable, the checklist, and get on it, because basically that's what we got sent here to do.
Yes. Okay.
If I may, I think for, the shifting it to the next meeting, Michael, it might be worth it to just, if you got a little update on each one.
We can do that
And
because we
then-
had started that process of which ones, of taking the old work plan. What things are done, which things are underway, where we stand, so that way you can see where all that exists. We can do that.
I think if we had a brief discussion about each bullet, we could probably then make a better decision if we need to do a deep dive.
Okay, we can do that at the next committees. We'll talk about the work plan, not necessarily the strategic plan, but that work plan that was developed, 3-4 years ago. Okay, we can do that.
Okay, so done.
Okay.
Is there anything else?
I would have one more request for Mr. Stallings. For the future land use map discussion, future additional discussion on that, can we, a lot of that's not really useful to discuss because it's already developed. There's only a few plots on there that are really, I think, unless I'm misinformed, but it only looks like there's maybe 6 or 7 plots of land on there that are going to be potentially developed in the future. The rest of it's already done. So I think it would be helpful to maybe parcel those out, right? And, A, B, C, D, E, what they're currently zoned at, what that actually means by our current zoning regulation, so that we can really discuss it with a little bit of technical background.
Do you want to set a minimum acre threshold? So I'm not bringing you every 1 acre parcel or something. You want 5 or 10 or?
Yeah, probably something like
Okay.
5 or 10 or whatever we discussed about the place downtown that didn't get approved.
Okay.
That size.
Okay.
Seems a starting point for growth
But
discussion.
I think also to compare the future land use map to the zoning map. That's usually what I look at, zoning versus future land,
Sure.
you really need to look at both of them side by side.
Public buildings, what is it? What is my, committee?
Public buildings and welfare.
Public buildings and welfare is closed.
Meeting adjourned.
See you, Chris.